Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the last arc of Higurashi. We've so far been receiving quite a tale from Takano, and honestly, the best I can tell her is, cool story, Takano, still murder. As we all know, it's a pretty poor justification for killing a whole bunch of people for basically no reason. But we'll find out more about how she accomplishes it and if we can stop her in this final arc, starting now, as we just had our confrontation between Hanyuu and Takano, who can apparently see Hanyuu. Sucks to be Takano. Or sucks to be Hanyuu, I guess. Takano's laughing. Welcome. We're back to the space between worlds. Welcome to the world of Higurashi, Chapter 8, Matsuribayashi. Well, that's a very meta statement. Who's speaking? In this world, you'll recreate the story from Hanyuu's point of view. Thank you for explaining that, although I probably could have predicted parts of that. Your objective is to create the June 1983 ideal to you. You'll need to collect many different fragments to make it possible. However, Takano's conviction is strong. To overturn it, you'll need a lot of effort and a lot of fragments. I'll warn you right now, it's a slow and painful process. Hanyuu went through it for over 100 years, and she even had to stop and give in to fate. Defeating Takano's conviction will not be easy. Whoa, they told me the game would be easy. The trial in this world will put you through as much pain as Hanyuu had to endure. Well, since whose perspective are we following? Well, it literally, as it said above, it said you'll create it for the story from Hanyuu's point of view. So I'm guessing we'll probably be following Hanyuu a little bit, which is going to be interesting because she's a ghost person who's literally never done anything. I'm guessing Hanyuu. We might see some Rika or some other people here and there, but I guess Hanyuu will be the focus. Maybe Rika. I'm guessing like Hanyuu, Rika, and then someone else is like in order of priority. We'll see. Or order of like most scenes. You may surrender like Hanyuu did after being emotionally worn down by the constant repetition of worlds woven by countless fragments. Well, that sounds depressing. When you feel like surrendering, you can end this game at any time. Okay, we can just Alt F4 if we're bored. Thanks for telling us. If you do, the worlds revolving around your friend's fate will be limited to Onikakushi through Minagoroshi. For chapters 1 through 7. Fair enough. By forgetting about this world and uninstalling this product, you will finally accept death. Thank you. We're going with Dark Souls lore now. As if you weren't aware, in Dark Souls, you go hollow when you give up on the game. It seems like they're telling us the exact same thing here. By uninstalling this product because the game sucks, you'll finally accept death, and there will be no escape for Hanyuu. Just like Rika did. Your ideal June 1983 can be created by putting together 50 fragments that are scattered over this world. 50! We've done 8! We've done 7! Are you kidding? 50! Connect these fragments, you need the right ones. There are 50 of them, which might be dizzying. However, this world isn't that merciless. To ease your pain, there'll be help for you. When you choose the wrong pieces, your only ally here will give you a sign it's not yet time to put them together. As long as the sign remains, you won't be able to connect them. So are they going to give us choices where we can fail now? That seems to be what they're pitching at me, is that I'm going to be able to pick instruction sequences and they might lead us somewhere poorly. As long as the sign remains, you won't be able to connect them. You might as well go look for different ones. Or are we going to be doing this in like a non-linear order? That would be interesting, where they just give us a bunch of options and we kind of just pick random scenes. After you put other fragments together, you might be able to connect the ones you couldn't put together earlier. When that happens, she'll let you know. Let's put those fragments together. Okay. When you connect all 50, they become one big fragment, and there you'll find your ideal June 1983. That's when the long-awaited Matsuribayashi will begin. Before you peek at each fragment, why don't you line up all 50 of them first? Most of them require other fragments, so there's only a few you can actually look at. Let's find those ones first. To see the conditions for connecting them, just point the cursor at them. It's definitely being a meta. It's definitely meta instructions. This is interesting. Before anything else, let's find the ones you can look at without conditions. It'll be an extremely long and difficult trial. Let me tell you again, Hanyuu challenged this for over 100 years and gave up. If you believe in miracles the same way your friends do, even if you don't live in the world they live, if you believe in them, welcome. Welcome to the world of Higurashi Chapter 8, Matsuribayashi, the first one they're pitching that might have actual gameplay. In this world, you'll be tested to see if you believe in the world that Rika and the others believed in. A miracle only happens when everyone combines their strength. The June 1983 created by Takano is nearly indomitable. She's gathered many people whose powers are beyond the average person to her side. Her backers are at the center of national authority. Even if 100 dice all rolled ones, there wouldn't be a chance to defeat her. In other words, a miracle is the only way forward. And a miracle happens only when everyone combines their strength. And you're one of them. Are you ready? I'm more than ready. The key to a long journey is not to pressure yourself too hard. So let's take it at a light pace. I'll work while drinking my usual wine. Shall we begin? We have all the time in the world. Alright, let's piece together this stuff. Will we actually have to piece them together ourselves? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's happening here. They seem to be giving... We obtained new fragments. Looks like we will be. Connecting fragments. Instructions time. Alright. We got 7 pages. Repetitive apologies are required. Huh. A bat to beat her to death is required. Looks like we got 7 pages. 7 fragments required. A fragment for Takari Goroshi. Huh. The game board must be set up. Interesting. So we have a bunch of scenes. Let's look at the first ones. Okay. The Tokuhojo's detailed test result required. Interesting. These all have requirements, so we can't touch them? This fragment is required first. Okay, it says first. I'm clicking it. What happens? Okay. Sorry for being late. You had an unusually large number of patients today. Thanks for coming, Lieutenant Colonel Erie. Okay. Tomitake stood up and suddenly saluted when he saw Erie come into the room. Have we seen this scene before? Stop calling me Lieutenant Colonel. I'm a doctor. I can't just get used to military rank. Can you call me Director instead? Understood, Director Erie. Tomitake, of course, knew Erie didn't like being called Lieutenant Colonel, so it's something of a joke. They laughed casually together, and on the other hand, Kano looked rather fed up with it. She couldn't stand hearing the same joke over and over, and was even thinking about talking to Tomitake about it. But she didn't want to hurt his feelings, so she simply never had the chance. Maybe it's because of how Tomitake pronounced it, but she keeps hearing Risa. Oh, Lieutenant Colonel in Japanese is Nisa, so she hears Risa. They haven't shown Rika's mom and dad's faces, right? Yeah, we haven't seen those. Once she heard it that way, she kept hearing Eerie Risa every time Tomitake said it. Eerie Risa. Interesting. When Takano told Eerie about it, he had a good laugh. Today was just a simple meet and greet, and tomorrow's the actual meeting. Tomitake already arrived. There'll be more inspectors from Tokyo at the meeting, waiting to hear about the progress that had been made. Anyway, I heard the whole village is up in arms about the damn construction project. Could say that again. The village is in such a mess. I participated in the local municipal explanation meeting as an official, but the whole thing was alive with angry shouts and profanities. Yeah, we have no clue what Rika's parents look like. After the basic Hanamizawa Dam project was announced, the village was consumed with uproar. The government retracted their plans for concessions rather early on. They made their aggressive stance clear. They didn't want locals to take advantage of them by showing their willingness to compromise. However, it backfired horribly. As they had historical ties to the land, the government's actions only made their bonds stronger, and neither the government nor the locals wanted to back down. People from Hanamizawa are rather hot-tempered, maybe because they're the descendants of demons. It's not funny. That wild meeting lasted all night. I feel your pain. Really, it's not funny, Tomitake. So what's going on with the dam construction? Are they all really going to submerge this village? Tokyo is applying their pressure to the situation, too. Things might seem clamorous on the surface, but in truth, the supporters behind it are wavering rather hard. Hope their pressure produces results soon. Oh, it will. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. The whole village is buzzing with action from dusk till dawn, and I worry the villagers' minds are growing agitated. Sometimes. I have to listen to my patients go on and on about their opinion on the dam construction plan. That's his problem. I like how his problem is like they're getting agitated, and I have to listen to them rant about the dam construction. God damn it. How do you even listen to them? You're too nice. I have to. I'm a clinic director first and a research center director second. It's part of my job to listen to them. Oh, that's very nice of you. It's admirable, even. Thanks, Tomitake. I know the people in Tokyo will call off the plan sooner or later, but the villagers don't. They have to live in fear they might be forced to live the land they've lived for generations. And even if they're told to leave, they don't have money. A lot of them are old. Maybe some wanted an increase in the amount of compensation they'd be offered, but the government changed its mind. I don't think it's possible for them to come to a peaceful arrangement at this point. There are actually some villagers satisfied with that amount and willing to leave, but the Sonozaki family didn't want to change their stance on the issue. They're actually leading the villagers in the fight against the government. There's flyer announcement vans everywhere, ads and flyers attached to circulation notices. Well, it's a serious matter for them. I guess I can understand. I hope the construction plan will be called off soon. For their sake, once it's called off, this village will be peaceful once again. I know that, of course. Things are moving right along in Tokyo. Please give us a little more time. I've heard a rumor from Tokyo you're having problems finding a way to pressure the Minister of Construction. Is that true? Oh, I'm not sure. I've heard myself they're having a little problem with some of the details. Oh, is this where Takano proposes the capturing of the minister's kid? Takano had powerful people supporting her, but they didn't control all of Japan. In fact, as I recall in the previous chapter, they stated they explicitly did not have a lot of ins with the Construction Bureau. There were some things they excelled in, but other things they weren't too good at. Finding a way to pressure the Minister of Construction fell into the latter. In all seriousness now, we really won't be facing any request to leave this area because of the dam, right? Of course not. I can guarantee that won't happen. It's just taking longer than we thought, that's all, so please continue your research. We're told if things can't be resolved peacefully, well, we might have to use drastic measures. Drastic? What do you mean, Tomitake? Oh, you don't need to worry about that part, Director Erie. Please let us take care. I see. Okay. Thank you for your work. It's fine, Director Erie. The dam construction plan will be called off. It's already been decided. As Takano giggled, Tomitake laughed too. However, Erie couldn't understand what was so funny, so he felt left out. Erie only understood the meaning of those drastic measures when he examined a young boy he'd never seen in the village before. That would be the minister's kid, who was kidnapped immediately, and he went, not my problem. Dr. Erie is not an amazing person here. Okay, so we click that, and it's blued out? Okay. Now what? Let's see. Repetitive apologies. Execution order for the third year of the curse. Results. Up from the carrier queen. The research needs to have stagnated. What am I looking for next? Probably... There's multiple fragments required first. What? Huh. Okay. Gosuke Irie's reminiscence. Irie's background. I see. Am I supposed to... A local explanatory meeting. There's a lot of firsts here. Satoshi as a fragment. Okay. Red capsule is required. Strawberry milk. This fragment first. Toko Hojo. Why are there so many firsts? I mean, how am I ordering these? If I click this one again. Fast forwarding through it. Fast forwarding through it on purpose to see what happens if I click it again. Nothing changes. So I can't untoggle things, I can only toggle things. Okay, all of these require something we don't have. The only thing we have right now is dam construction operation withdrawal, which is... I guess I should have looked at all of them before proceeding. 7 fragments required. Are we building the world before June 1983? I think we're building the world around there, yeah. A fragment from Oni Kikuchi. The Revenge of Miyo Takano, Keiichi Maibara. Let's see, second fragment that's required. Conflict. This fragment first. Is this not a dead end already? None of these, all of these have requirements that I can't match. I did the dam, and I don't know if I can change it. Let's see, let's try another first. Kyosuke Iri. Group physical exams are meaningful to our research. It's only for certain age groups. We can examine them at the same time. Okay. Perfect cover for our research center. Because of several arrangements, we have a monopoly on the villagers' corpses and can perform autopsies, too. There certainly wasn't an environment this rich in opportunity for those in the medical field. Our follow-up on the work of the late Dr. Takano is going smoothly. The amount of data he compiled is astounding. He truly was an incredible researcher. Excuse me, Director. Oh, Takano-san, thanks for your work. We just received the results of the test results from Tokyo. Here they are. Thank you. It's getting interesting, isn't it? I'm glad we can share this, Joe. Takano is my assistant, sent from the SDF. But she's far from the image I have of an SDF officer. Just like our research is being concealed, maybe her identity is concealed as well. I'm sure her name is an alias as well. I'm just a doctor and a researcher. Without Takano's support, it would be impossible for me to manage this. He's a pipeline to our clients in Tokyo, my assistant, as well as a researcher who's an expert on Hanamizawa syndrome. Her existence is absolutely necessary here, and the more I think about it, the more I feel this should have been the Takano Institute rather than the Erie Institute. And she should have been the director. She also recruited you. That was explained to me when they asked me to take this position. My client wanted a civilian to manage this. They searched for a person who met the requirements, and there was I. And I became the director. I have a feeling I'm a puppet on their strings, but I won't just sit here and do nothing. I was asked to research a rare disease. I'm a researcher after all, so of course I'm excited about that. My client's goals might be different, but I'm here out of the desire to unravel the mysteries of Hanamizawa and be the first to uncover a new mystery for mankind. Alright, we have this data that suggests the existence of a parasite is the cause of the syndrome. Yet we still can't find factual evidence of the culprit microbe itself. True. I thought we'd find it easily if we used an electron microscope. Viruses are too small to see with a regular microscope. Though the invention of the electron microscope was a dramatic advancement in the world of medicine. However, it's very expensive and there's no way for a normal doctor to acquire one. The late Takano said an electron microscope could find the cause, but it seems his theory could be wrong. It's been proven wrong. Even Takano was hoping an electron microscope would find it. He was disappointed when she didn't cover anything after all the autopsies she performed. Our research seems to be having its first snag. It actually stalled our work for several weeks now. We need to think about where to go from here. A live subject. Which means they're either smaller than microscopic, or there's something wrong with the specimen. Oh, what do you mean? Well, you know, wild mice have tons of fleas on them, but you can't find fleas on dead mice. That's because when the mouse dies, their habitat dies as well. So if the host dies, the parasites work in too. Right. So, on Earth we go, just like you won't find a living human in a post-apocalyptic world. Therefore, we just have to look into the Earth before it ends, right? Okay, that's true. We need to think about human rights, though. It's hard to look into a brain while the patient's still alive. Examining a living human's brain, no matter how you sugarcoat it, that's very serious. From a medical standpoint, it's necessary, but we have rules and morals in this world. And we have to advance medicine within such boundaries. There was a time when I was studying lobotomies for the betterment of mankind. I don't think I was wrong. However, could I ever be forgiven under our ideas of ethics? Well, I don't know. Probably not. One day my judgment will be handed down by the devil. Whether I'm guilty or not, I have to accept it. As I reflected on my past, I heard a voice. It was Takano's. It was very clear and simple. Yet, it struck me with surprise. Understood. Let me prepare a world on the verge of death. What? I'm startled. Sometimes the phrase advancing medicine bore the whisper of the devil tempting us to accept sacrifices. And I heard that devil whisper. It's not that difficult. I just have to find a Hinamizawa resident who's about to die, that's all. But even if they're about to die, who would be brave enough to provide their body for research while still alive? Oh, don't worry about that. If they're dying anyway, we're just going to put them to sleep a little sooner. On paper, of course. The patient would be legally declared dead even though they're still alive, and we'd perform an autopsy while they're still alive. That's impossible. Ethics is not a word in Mio Takano's book, dictionary. Besides, if we perform neurological surgery, we have to do a circular incision on the cranial area. Their family will notice the marks for sure. That's where we come in. I'll have the mountain dogs look for a patient in the local hospital that matches our needs immediately. All you have to do is wait with a knife and fork in hand. I'll bring your meal right away. So she's kidnapping someone who's sick? Understood. Mio Takano is my partner, and there's no question about that, but I just can't trust her. I mean, it's her extremities as a research that contrast largely with mine. But are we so different? We're finally seeing what literally happened in the Oyashiro-sama type curse they're talking about? Yeah, I think so. I'm waiting here simply with a knife and fork in hand as she told me to. I just don't want to witness such a gruesome scene, that's all. What she's preparing for me now is exactly what I want. And who's the hypocrite? Well, not her. It's me, of course. How can you say you're different knowing what you've done in the past? You're literally working with someone who's taking random people hostage to perform medical research on them. You're like taking random hostages and drilling into their brains to examine them. I don't think you can say you're different in the slightest here. I performed lobotomies without patient consent, despite it being surgery that might affect their life forever. How is that different from what she's doing? I've never doubted my past achievements. However, when I look at her, I start to feel unease. I'm starting to feel that maybe he should take a couple of those suicide pills. Takano is talking to Okanogi on the intercom in my office. I'm sure she's telling him to come over to explain to him what was just discussed. And I simply watch without stopping her. I begin to reflect on my past, to remember why I chose to become a doctor. Apparently it was to amuse Takano. Okay, that was interesting, for sure. So do we just have to play through all these shards? I'm not quite sure what's happening here. I've clicked some of them. I'm just gonna click a random one like this. Let's see. What happens if I click this? It can't be connected yet. Huh. Okay. So I'll do all the start. All the first must be first then? Hmm. We don't have instructions for kidnapping the minister's grandson. Kosuke's reminiscence hasn't been done, I don't think. So let's see. No death, no death. This one is next, I guess. We'll just do all the ones that we're allowed to do first. I guess what we're actually doing is not sequencing our picks, but actually doing all of them in the order it'll allow us to unlock them. Interesting. So we're picking our scenes. Alright. The forecast said a chance of rain in the evening. Don't you love how it goes? There might be rain. 10% chance of rain. It pours 100% of the time. 90% chance. 90% chance of rain. Oh, perfect. It's raining. I'll bring my umbrella. No rain. I didn't think it would rain so hard. We decided to wait at an abandoned bus stop for the rain clouds to clear. Who is this we? Sorry, Takano-san. Oh, don't be cheery. I knew it would pour, so don't worry about it. Did you? Well, it's at a low chance. Nakano giggled. Although she said the weather might change suddenly, I dragged her out here. I feel stupid for making her come along and ending up ruining her precious day off. I have to go back to Tokyo tonight, so it'll be a while before I can return to Hinamizawa. I didn't want to spend my last day at a cheap hotel in Okinomiya, so I asked her to go out for a stroll. It's just... I'm really sorry. She teased me for a little while. She wasn't actually enjoying driving me into a corner. That's just her way of communicating, and I find it charming. You poor, innocent soul, Tomatake. That is exactly what she's doing. I think I've become captivated by her. But on her part, I'm just an auditor from Tokyo. That's why she's being nice to me. It's definitely not because she likes me personally. I feel like I might have used my position to drag her out here, and it makes me a bit depressed. I probably should think this slight fever I have is due to nothing more than a cold. But she's the one who made it clear when she disliked something. She wouldn't say so directly, but she would use all kinds of indirect expressions to say the same thing. So I want to believe she's out here because she might be a little bit attracted to me. I shook my head as I frowned upon my selfish thoughts, and she chuckled as though she knew what I was thinking. I felt myself starting to go red after that. You're a mysterious person, Jiro-san. I bet women don't leave you alone, huh? Why are you hanging out with a weirdo like me? Yeah, this poor innocent Tomatake, he has no clue about her. Oh, no, wait, you're fascinating, Takano. Actually, I feel bad making you spend a day with someone like me. Of course. I decided to devote my life to my work, but life is too dry with only that. I need to switch gears once in a while, and communicating with the opposite sex is good for the brain. It's all good if I manage to help you clear your head. Don't you feel refreshed just being with me? She gives me an impish smile that makes my heart skip a beat. I tried hiding my embarrassment so she wouldn't notice, even my ears going red. Of course, when I'm with you, I feel refreshed, yeah. Besides, if you learn about avian photography, I'll gain a buddy to share my hobby with. So next time I'll bring my old camera. It's really expensive to buy a new one, you know? Thanks, I'd love to learn about avian photography that you're so intrigued by. I'm looking forward to joining you on a stroll next time. I don't need to buy a camera, do I? Oh, no. Try it with my old camera. If you enjoy it, you can buy one yourself. I'll send it to you when I get back to Tokyo. Thanks. I'll have you critique my photos when you come next time. Sure. I could hardly wait to see them. There'll be nothing compared to yours. It's my first time doing it, you know? While she keeps her cool and smiles, all I can do is blush and scratch my head. Takano is far too interested in his hobby to be a normal person. This should be a red flag. He's like, oh, I'm into avian photography, and she's like, oh yeah, what's that? Do I need to buy a camera to participate in it? And you're like, whoa, what? We're going really fast here. Am I being conceited? I can't help but think Takano likes being with me. If it's mere flattery, I don't think she'd come this far. Oh no. Taking women's flattery seriously is the mistake I always make. I shouldn't assume she's attracted to me. By the way, isn't this the first time we've been alone like this? You're right, usually the director or some research staff is around. I don't know anything about you. I don't know what you do in Tokyo or what you've done in the past. I wonder, what do you do in the self-defense force? I was an instructor for a while. I was injured and hurt my eye. I can live normally, but they made a big deal out of it, and ever since, all I do is desk work. Takano giggles, saying I must have done something silly to cause that injury. And when I helped PR with their magazine, I became fascinated with photography. Cameras have the power to make people happy. I bet you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's true. Look, since I started taking pictures, my life has been so much happier. How can a camera make one happy? Well, a camera takes a snapshot of a moment of life. Of course, you want to capture a moment that's filled with happiness, right? So you look for happiness through the viewfinder. And as you search, you realize your everyday life is actually filled with happiness. For example, a dandelion sprouting from the crack of the asphalt is a weed in a busy life, but when you look at it through the viewfinder, it's a gift to let you know spring is approaching. You capture it and put it in an album, and every time you open the album, you remember the happy feeling you had when you took that picture. Do you always feel that way when you take pictures? Yeah, I don't have any ambitions of taking artistic photos or capturing a dramatic, prize-winning moment. That's not important to me. I want those moments we don't notice. Helping us recognize those little moments of happiness is the greatest thing about cameras. This guy is a serious photographer. He really likes his hobby. I'm glad he likes it too. It's a kind of a nice perspective. He's like, okay, I just like capturing little signs and little moments for myself. A nice hobby, right? I can kind of understand why he picked up photography. Whereas some people just take pictures. I was like, okay, this guy seems to have a reason behind his photography interest. Glad to be able to see Hinami's through my viewfinder. I have a tendency to go overboard when I talk, but most of the time Takano playfully twists my words right back at me. It's very unusual for her to listen to me like this. She sat down next to me and tried to fiddle with my camera. I don't know how much of an impression I made. I think she's indeed interested in cameras. I was expecting her to tease me like usual, so I'm happy to see it's her reaction. You want to try? Do you think I can? It's easy. First, you need to learn how to focus and press the shutter. Why don't you hold it? Never touch the lens. Okay. Is this easy? He's playing dumb, I think. Since she seems to show an interest in cameras, I wanted to take a walk around Hinamizawa and take some pictures of the scenery. But unfortunately, the rain doesn't seem to want to stop. But she's still having fun and taking pictures inside the bus stop. The first set of pictures she ever took were of odd things in that dark little building. And since then, every time we'd meet, we end up walking around the village with our cameras in hand. I didn't know Takano even had a camera. I thought it was just all the Tomitake show for in terms of photography. That seems like a new revelation, sort of. Like, Takano actually has a camera? We've never seen it, but she has one, apparently. Okay, Kyosuke's Reminiscence. I don't know if we actually done that one. We have two more firsts. Explanatory meeting in Satoshi. Alright. We do all the firsts. I don't know what we do after the first, but we'll see. The dam construction will begin. Bring in new jobs and revitalize the local industry, and then it will kill the local industry off by drowning everyone. That's not what we're saying. Who the hell gave you permission to build a dam here? Obviously the government, but I got a real question for you. If you're planning on drowning the whole town, saying it will bring in new jobs and revitalize local industry doesn't work because there won't be any industry when the dam's done, right? Doesn't that follow? Like, okay, so we're gonna build a dam and we're gonna put the entire city underwater, but for the next 2 months, we'll revive the local industry. Like, what? What? That doesn't work. That doesn't work at all. You squeeze tax money from us and this is what we get in return? Who do you think pays your salaries? Look, we're trying to explain to you. We don't want to hear your excuses. We want to know when you'll stop the construction. You're useless. Bring the Minister of Construction here. He'll get to the bottom of it. Shut up, yuppie. Hey, you're paid with our tax money. What the hell are you talking down to us from up there? Come down here and let us speak face to face. The auditorium is filled with angry shouting. This doesn't look like an auditorium. This looks like a meeting room. But alright, the sign at the entrance says Hinamizawa Dam Construction Explanatory Meeting. Every time the official on stage tried to say anything, the citizens packed in the room silenced him with their shouts. Trying to ignore them, the official continued to explain the pros of the dam, but that just further infuriated them. I mean, let's be honest, the first point was probably the worst point I've ever heard as a plus for the dam construction. Like, okay. Everyone's gonna make lots of money, but we want you to leave and never return before that happens. Because you're not gonna be the one making money, and you're like, how is this a benefit to me? The local economy can't be revived if you drown the local economy. Literally, with water. Alright. Between the stage and the citizens, there was an open area where a police squad was standing by. If they weren't there, the citizens would jump on stage and start a riot. I'm watching it all from the back of the auditorium. It's obvious to anyone they're being swallowed by their anger. They've become filled with a bloody red rage, and the anger came from a certain purpose, becomes a purpose in and of itself, and creates a vicious cycle where anger leads to more anger. Anger is a necessary emotion for humans. People face many difficulties in their lives. Anger gives them motivation to fight, and conquer such difficulties. Therefore, it's an essential part of life itself. Though I won't reject anger itself. However, an anger like this, that goes beyond normal, makes people forget their purpose. It's no longer an essential part of life. As the blood rushes to their head, a person can't remember what they've done. They go out of control. Such emotions are painful, sad, and difficult to endure. I can clearly see the villagers who live alongside us turning into demons. I can understand the rules of the human world. The power of an individual can't be compared to the power of the government. To be able to fight, an individual needs to become part of a larger, unified power. But to steer that power in the right direction is very difficult. The cycle of anger leads to more anger. Not anger that helps you live, but anger that exists only for anger. It's just like being a demon. And this emotion is capable of violently rousing us from our long, peaceful slumber. Everyone is immersed in their own anger. We lived peacefully. Hello there. We lived peacefully with the villagers while we slept quietly, and yet now we've awakened. It's like the world is trying to return to that age when demons were said to rise from the swamp. I keep shouting at everyone to get them to calm down, but my voice can't reach them because of the vicious cycle of anger. Even so, I'll continue shouting, hoping one of them will hear my voice. If I don't do anything, the demons might awaken. The demons that went into a deep sleep may awaken because of this commotion. And then all of a sudden the atmosphere changes. Looking up, I saw the angry exchange between villagers and those on the podium evolved into confrontation between villagers themselves. What's going on? Shut up. Those are your reasons, not ours. Don't pull us into this, old hag. The hell cares? The hell you say, best? Hey. Do you know who you're talking to? This is Oryu. You got some nerve. The hell do you think you are? Shut up, Sonozaki. So what? I'm Hojo. Get your goons away from me. Hey, Hojo, how dare you say you want the village to be submerged? How much are they paying you? Shut up, old geezer. Listen, there's plenty of poor people in Hinamizawa. Not everyone's rich and has fields over the mountains like you do. I'm satisfied with the compensation from the government. They even offered to provide us public housing. Yeah, there absolutely was a sound. You're ruining everything, assholes. Don't pretend you're not the same as us. You're the same as us. If you want to fight with the government, why don't you fight by yourself? And who's going to pay? You? I'm poor and have 2 kids at home. I was planning to start a new life by living in peace after my compensation from the government and finding a job elsewhere. But you, since when do you represent me? You think you're that important or what? Hey, Hojo, how dare you betray us? Get out of this village. Oh, sure, I'm happy to. You're going to pay what I'm entitled to, right? You're going to pay me every yen of the compensation I was going to get from the government? Even if I want to leave, I don't have the money. If you're going to pay me, I'll leave right away. Hojo's right. There's plenty of residents who are willing to leave. The 3 families shouldn't drag us into this. The hell is this? Who just spoke? Who was it? If you want to stay, then stay. We have the right to leave. Don't interfere. That's right. Back the hell off, Sonozaki hag. That Hojo there is Satoko's biological parents? Yes. Of course, we'll compensate the people who support the dam construction plan. We most certainly won't steal the land from you. Shut up, government dog. Are you trying to divide the village? Die, Hojo. You don't deserve to breathe village air. Hold your breath and suffocate to death. Actually, hold up. I need to check he's actually saying this. 1 second. I can't tell he's saying this, so I'm going to have to turn the audio on. That is Oryu speaking. So Oryu is ordering his death here. Interesting. Okay. That is Oryu speak for kill him. Screw you, old hag. Step up front. Stay out as old fat pig. Alright, very good. That was very good, Hojo. I haven't been this pissed off in so long. You'll get what you deserve. Look forward to it. So Oryu says she's gonna fucking kill him right here. Literally just says he'll get what he deserves. Look forward to it. And she said she'll fucking kill him by suffocating him. Get him, Hojo. The government has to provide us new jobs, shelter, and compensation. Hey, stop this violence. All of you, stop it. Oh, bring it on. Come get some. Everyone's being tainted with the bloody red anger, and I can only watch. The least I can do is apologize for the tragedy that's about to happen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, this is how things started. From this day onward, the Hojos and Sonozaki will wage a feud against each other, and the Hojo family will be ostracized within the village. This marks the beginning of Satoshi and Satoshi's lives of tremendous hardship. Because Oryu is a control freak and has way too much power, and someone should still shoot her. It'd be really nice. Shoot her with that taser, Shion. Please tell me that in the good route, Shion shoots. I know it's not going to happen, but I'd really like it if in the good route, Shion shot her. Alright. This fragment first, Satoshi as well. When I asked Rika, she said Satoko might possibly have gone up to the mountain behind the shrine. She's fond of getting there. Going there, the mountain's covered with trees, vines, fallen logs, and she really likes that area. Any child would dream of having a secret base, and to Satoko, her secret base is the whole mountain. Good luck. However, the mountains were undeveloped territory, making them a dangerous place, easy to get lost in. As her brother, I'm a little concerned she spends so much time on it, but maybe I should worry about myself getting lost since I rarely come here. The mountain gets dark quickly when evening falls. If I still can't find her, I should look for her elsewhere. Satoko! Satoko! I'm yelling as loud as I can, but in the woods my voice doesn't carry that well. According to Rika, she's been making her secret base in this area. She goes up there alone to expand it. And what does she mean by expand it? That would be all the traps on the mountain, right? If it's a secret base, she must not want anyone to find it. Does that mean she's set up some traps? Considering that, I should have noticed traps on the mountain before one got me. And suddenly my foot stuck into the ground and snagged on something like a jump rope tied beneath dried leaves. I heard noise from above and a big ball made of branches fell right next to me. It had to be one of the playhole traps Satoko loved. If I wasn't so lucky, I'm sure the ball would have hit my head. Oh my, look who's here. It's you, Nini. Satoko, no, this kind of horseplay is dangerous. Did you not see the sign put up the forestry service? It clearly states it's dangerous to come into these woods. Nice, nice. My wonderful traps will welcome anyone who ignores that warning. Satoshi's demoned away arc, oof. I like how she's like, well, it said it was dangerous, so I just made it more dangerous. Not my problem. As her brother, I should stop her from doing things like this, but when I see her brilliant smile, well, I can't say anything else. I haven't seen that smile in a long time. By the way, Satoko, weren't you told to come home by evening since we're going out for dinner tonight? I don't want to go. Why don't our mother and father go by themselves? If you want to, you can go with them, Nini. Are you still angry at father? He threw an ashtray at me. No. That happened with our previous father. Our current one hasn't done that. He locked me out on the veranda. He didn't feed me lunch. And he complained I got him the wrong brand of cigarettes. Then he slapped me on the face saying I shouldn't be a picky eater. And then, she isn't talking about our current stepfather. Things about all our different stepfathers have mixed themselves up in her head. Imagine complaining about getting the wrong brand of cigarettes and then saying you shouldn't be a picky eater. Okay. Every time my mother remarried, we had to call a different man our father. The word father isn't a word that should be taken lightly. If you don't truly acknowledge a man as your father, how can you call him that? That's how much weight it carries. So, her mother's remarried multiple times then? However, just to make things smooth and peaceful, I used the word father even if I didn't want to. But it was too difficult for Satoko, as young as she was, to do the same. So since they're all father, then she says they're all the same person? Okay. Ever since Satoko was little, she's been having troubles with all her stepfathers. She's never opened up to the current one. To Satoko, a father figure is no longer someone she can trust. It's true, our current stepfather doesn't have experience in being a parent, so he sometimes gets upset with her. But ever since the incident where Satoko called the hotline, our stepfather has regretted his mistakes and tried his best to communicate with her. Even my mother realized how much Satoko has suffered emotionally when it was pointed out by the social worker. She's doing her part in trying to bring Satoko back into the family, but Satoko refuses to try. It's understandable, though. Her childhood's been filled with misery. She can only open up to me, and that's why I have to be the one and only person she can trust. The only family member she can trust. Otherwise, she'll be alone in this world. But a brother and a sister alone? Well, that's not quite a family. Even if we don't get along now, if we continue to communicate, even in a small way, we might be able to become a real family one day. Toko. Satoko? Our current stepfather is getting nicer. He says he wants to make up with you. That's news to me. That's because every time he tries to say something, you run away. He wants to talk to you. He says he won't make you eat pumpkin anymore. That's a lie. He said I couldn't leave until I ate my pumpkin and tied me to the chair. Again, she isn't talking about our current stepfather. Satoko, just come home with me. Mother got a free dinner coupon and we don't want it to go to waste. You're not rolling on Artoria? There's some banners down the road and you have MP5 Seek? But everyone has it. Everyone who played Apocrypha has MP5 Seek, right? That's clearly a bait banner. Clearly a bait banner. I'm with Hoshi. Right, we have to go again. We have to go to... Why don't you go, Nini? I prefer staying home alone. Satoko usually doesn't stay out playing this late. She knows we're going out, and that's why she's out here alone. Although I want to snap at her, I controlled myself. She only has me, and I can't scare her. Please, let's go home, Satoko. You don't have to decide to go or not right now. You can think about it after we get there. Besides, without your help, I can't find my way down the mountain. Nini, I've brought you here so many times already, and you still haven't learned. What am I going to do with you, Nini? Satoko holds out her hand. She often says she's embarrassed to hold my hand in front of people, but she's holding her hand out right now. I took the hand, Satoko's fragile hand. Gajuna is a good AoE saver. He just has a different class. I have to protect her as her big brother. Go home, Satoko. Sure. Alright. A nice, kind opening scene. Nothing bad happens. I assume we're doing all of the tiles. We just have to find the right tiles, or what order to do the tiles in. Make the perfect 1983. Let's see. This one is probably doable right now. But we'll keep going. Let's look for another one. Rigu, Family's Move, Watermelon, Fourth Year Curse, Red Capsule. This fragment's required first. There's Satoko's introduction. And the conflict, I think, already exists. Let's see, is there any first? In here? No. 7 fragments. Hold up. 7 fragments? That must be the 7th we pick. Fragment required first. Okay. My name is Satoko Hojo, but Hojo is my current father's family name. I was also Satoko Hatake, Satoko Yoshizawa, and also Satoko Matsura because of my previous fathers. She's got a lot of names. She's a woman of many faces and many names. I'm still not used to being called Hojo-san. If someone calls me Satoko, I know that person's talking to me, because Satoko is the name I've used since I was born. I don't understand why my mother keeps getting married and divorced. If she's gonna get a divorce, why bother getting married? If she's married, why get a divorce? I've asked her before, but depending on the situation, her answers are always different. When I asked her when she was married, she got angry. When I asked her after she got divorced, she cried. I don't know the meaning of marriage. I have no interest in drawing pictures of a bride in a wedding dress. I don't think I'll ever get married. I don't want to keep changing my child's last name. My teacher once asked if I liked my mother. I think it was when I was in kindergarten in Okonomiya. It was a very difficult question, because sometimes I love her and sometimes I hate her. I just couldn't decide. When my mother was nice, she smiled. She made us happy. She thanked me for being her daughter. But when my mother wasn't nice, she frowned all the time. She treated my brother and me poorly, and she told me I should never have been born. When my teacher asked me if I liked my father, it was an easy question, because I always hated him, no matter who he was. The new fathers treated me nicely at first, as if I was the real daughter. They always told me I could think of them as my real father. But they couldn't be him, because I didn't know my real father's face. How could I call them my father? Well, I couldn't. It was disgusting. And right before divorce, my fathers always became very irritated with me. They treated me like a cockroach. They told me they didn't have money to feed me. They threw things at me. They locked me out on the veranda. Just like my parents. Yeah, nice people. Nice people, right? I was told I could forget about them because that was all in the past. I think that was a different teacher from a different school. Maybe that's true. Because ever since Hojo became my father, my mom's been smiling. I haven't seen them get into a fight, as I've seen happen just before divorce. They have little arguments here and there, but those don't lead to a divorce. They always make up. I'm sure they'll get a divorce sooner or later. And it'll be the same old stuff. Family court, divorce settlements, a night flight, child support. Who knows how long this Hojo will be my father. That's why I don't feel like calling him that. He also treated me well at first, but when I didn't call him father after he asked me repeatedly, he got irritated. Yeah, they'll get a divorce soon. When my father gets into this mood, a divorce is on the way, and after a divorce, it's my mother's turn to be irritated. Then she'll tell me she shouldn't have had me, or she can't be happy because of me. And why is my existence causing problems for her? I asked my brother, and he told me, if you have children, it's not easy to find someone to get married with. For my mother, remarriage is an important job, so I can understand having children around will cause problems. I think I understand why I'm a nuisance. I asked my brother something else. Why are children hated by new fathers? Well, that's simple. Because family members have different roles. A mother's job is to love. A father's job is to love the mother. That means I'm a nuisance to both my mother and my father. My brother is more mature than me, so they don't look down on him as a nuisance, but maybe I am, well, no, I'm definitely a nuisance. So I know now. Both my mother and father want me dead, but if they kill me, they'll be caught. It doesn't mean they won't kill me. If I were to look down the cliff, and if no one was around, my mother and father would push me off for sure. He's become abnormally nice to me recently. He started acting that way ever since I made the fake call. I know for sure it's part of a plot to kill me. I won't let them trick me. Sorry. Lately, when I listen carefully, I can hear a voice apologizing. The voice sounds similar to mine. Her mother must be telling her that she shouldn't have been born. I'm sorry. But I won't apologize like that. I'll live. I'm gonna strike back. I'll kill her before I get killed. I'm sorry. That would be Hanyuu speaking, right? The apologies she's hearing are from Hanyuu. I'm guessing that's Hanyuu. So this is Satoko's descent into madness. It's gonna be her. It's gonna be her who goes crazy, right? Why put work into killing a child, you bore? You don't understand that? What's there not to understand about killing one of your children if you don't... Children are extremely expensive and difficult to manage. It's a very trying task. And a lot of people don't value other people's lives other than their own. So I can see how that abortion's always on the table. That's not true at all. Abortion is not always on the table. I.e., like half the US right now. Literally illegal, and they're trying to make laws that make it illegal for you to go to another state and get an abortion. So, abortion's not always on the table, and this is the 80s. This is the 80s where, even fewer countries have this. Have access to abortion. You gotta remember the setting of this. This is 80s Japan. This is 80s Japan. Well, it's, USA is always rare breed. I mean, we can look up abortion legality in Japan. That could be a thing. Let's see, abortion legality Japan. I'm just gonna do a quick Google search here. Actually, I should probably do this on my computer instead of my phone. Let's have a look. Let's see, abortion legality Japan. Let's see. I want to know the history. Here we go. Okay, our good old friend Wikipedia. Let's see, history. I want 1923. Emergency abortions were allowed to save the mother's life. In 1940, national eugenic law. There are procedures describing how to perform them. It can be ignored when it's an emergency. It's a process. Blah, blah, blah. After World War II, it found itself in a population crisis. Let's see. In 1980, Japan legalized it under certain circumstances. A eugenic protection law made Japan one of the first countries to legalize induced abortion in 1949. Extreme physical or economic distress to the mother. A further stipulation in 1952 meant that requiring that a mother meet an economic threshold for living conditions. The whole law was revised in a murder law in 1996. Okay. So basically, the requirements were you have to be insanely poor or likely to die in the 1980s. There you go. So it was 1996, presumably, that gave them that. Let's see. Allowed under a term limit of 22 weeks for endangerment of the health of the pregnant woman, economic hardship, or rape. Oh, even right now, that's the case. So if you're not dying, going to be poor or raped, it's and de jure is yeah, you can't actually just do it. There's broad exceptions, but apparently that's there. Being poor is ambiguous. True. It says economic hardship, which is probably an easy way to get in there, but theoretically you can't just do it because you want to. Exceptions are regulated by another law. Let's see. If a woman is married, she requires consent from the spouse as well for socioeconomic reasons, although it doesn't apply if she's in a broken marriage, suffering abuse, or domestic issues. So, basically, your whole family has to be poor. If you're in a family, you need your spouse's consent, and it can only be aborted if it's a danger to your health, economic well-being, or sexual assault. So, that could be tough to get an abortion in Japan, even nowadays. And that's with, like, wider stuff. You who are actually poor, yeah. So I don't know how poor she is. I mean, she lives in a village in the middle of nowhere, so even her knowledge of the procedure and where to get it might be out of her reach just to do that. Yeah, in conclusion, there are not too many cases in which you can actually get an abortion in Japan, so it might be somewhat difficult to get one. And information about that might not be as widespread in the 80s because, you know, not everyone has a cell phone or access to the internet. Because Googling stuff is hard, especially when you're like living in a tiny ass village in the middle of nowhere. There might not even be a clinic where you can get that done. Unless your doctor consults with you and tells you it's an option, or you may have to bring it up. You might have to bring it up specifically with your doctor while you're pregnant, and it might be too late anyway, because it says under 22 weeks. Which is what, 4 months? Approximately 4 months. Yeah, I think I can see some rational reasons why you wouldn't like your children. I mean, that doesn't mean you should kill them, but I think there are reasons why you would dislike, hate, or want to kill them. Just like any other person, I mean. It'd be even worse, because you're, like, basically forced to watch over them. Okay. Let's see, I think we got everything. A conflict between the Hojos? I think we got this. Let's see. I ran into Satoko while on my way to the grocery store for my mother. Satoko said she was going there too, so we decided to go together. After exchanging our shopping lists, it became easy to guess what the other family would be having for dinner. Satoko's family is having grilled fish and cooked vegetables. We're all having Salisbury steak. My, that sounds very good. I don't mind the grilled fish, but it's the vegetables I'm less fond of. I'm certain there's still plenty of pumpkin left from the other day. I bet you're getting a lot today. Where's Satoko? I don't appreciate knowing pumpkin's going to show up on the dinner table. Huh. You don't like pumpkin no matter how it shows up. I can't believe Satoko doesn't like pumpkin pie. Satoko? You might deserve being forced to eat pumpkin until you like it. Can you imagine not liking pumpkin pie? I mean, it's not the best pie ever, but come on. Come on, Satoko, have some taste. If you're willing to eat broccoli or cauliflower, surely you can like pumpkin. It's way better. Rika, you have some food you're not fond of, right? That's right, you don't like daifuku, cream puffs, or anything sweet, don't you? It's not I don't like those things. I just choose not to eat them. If I wanted to, I could eat sweets forever. I could even eat pumpkin pie, too. Pie? It's not fair, you aren't a picky eater. You don't like pie, you like cheesecake, though? Some cheesecakes are nice. Conversations like this are how I have fun. Satoko is my best friend. I don't usually like grocery shopping, but if I'm with Satoko, well, I can make it an enjoyable evening stroll. Near the supermarket, there's grocers and other shops forming a little shopping district. The grocery store is busy this time of day, and all the housewives in Hanamizawa gather here to shop. Since Satoko and I have different things to buy, we decided to do our shopping separately. Welcome, welcome. Oh, Rika-chama, are you shopping for your mother? What a good girl. Hey, Pa. I'm a good girl and go shopping by yourself. Well, you really are a good girl. Here, I'll give you this. There were several candies for the owner's occasional asthma attack inside a sieve full of change hanging in the front. He picked out a sweet from there and gave it to me. It was my favorite flavor, strawberry milk. I put it in my pocket to brag about it to Satoko later. I get a lot of fun at it teasing Satoko and making her jealous. She always overreacts. So I never get bored when I'm with her. What are you having for dinner tonight, Rika? Ground pork. We're making Salisbury steak. We're gonna put flower-shaped fried eggs on top and draw pictures with ketchup. Oh, that sounds like fun. I enjoyed the conversation while filling my shopping basket. How old is Rika supposed to be here? She's like 9. But then I heard some women whispering. They're talking about something a little harsh. They're talking about Satoko. How long do those village traders plan to stay here? They should just leave. They don't even have the guts to go shopping themselves and make their daughter do it instead. The woman went on and on. The rain here hasn't stopped since last night. It was actually raining a whole lot when I was driving today, too. I drove, when I started driving, it was like raining pretty hard. I kept driving, and the rain let up, and then I hit traffic around Toronto. There's always traffic around Toronto. But I hit traffic so long. I hit traffic, and the traffic was so slow that it started spitting again. And then it started raining again. And then there was a colossal fucking downpour. And traffic was still going on, and on, and on. And the storm literally passed all the way over me while I was still in traffic in Toronto. It was only raining for about an hour. I was moving slow enough that the whole storm passed over me. I guess it was moving west-east. It was a little bit annoying knowing that I drove fast enough that I was out of the storm, and the frickin' storm caught up to me because the traffic was so bad. Which probably made the traffic worse because, you know, now it's pouring and people can't see, so they don't want to accelerate really quickly. Oh well. People gotta get into accidents. There was like freaking 5 of them. There was like 4 or 5 accidents. I know at least 4. The wind's strong too. Oh, that's annoying. Oh well, if you're just hanging out and indoors, it's only a little bit of noise that's sometimes annoying. But it isn't raining around here, I don't think. Not right now. Ever since the Hojos and the Sonozakis got into a huge fight at the explanatory meeting for the dam project, the Hojo family's been ostracized within the village. At first, there were a significant number of families in favor of leaving like the Hojos, but the main branch of the Sonozakis led a push to completely solidify the village's opinion, and as the tone of the unified resistance grew stronger, the pro-evacuation families steadily grew quiet. Public harassment led by the Sonozakis and Kimiyoshis, 2 of the 3 families with powerful influence on the village, played an effect too. The Sonozaki made the Hojos into an example to ensure there would be no more pro-evacuation supporters. I think someone should shoot Miss Oryu. The ancestors of the village lived here for generations, and the villagers knew they themselves would be buried in this village, so the harassment puts a lot of pressure on them. Who was it that agreed to make the Hojos the leader of the pro-evacuation group at the explanatory meeting? The same people no longer said anything. They even joined in on harassing the Hojos. The harassment they faced became pressure from the entire village. The Hojos are hardly wealthy. They haven't even paid the town council fees in a long time. When things were peaceful, nobody said anything, but now that the wind's blowing a different way, the Hojos were asked to pay all of their late council fees immediately. It wasn't an amount they could afford, but the Hojos recognized a fight that was being picked with them, and they responded to it, and so the Hojos quit the town council. That only played right into the village's evil plan. Making an enemy of the council meant facing vicious harassment. For example, the place the Hojos dumped their trash was a provisional dumping site established by the town council and the waste management department. Under the council agreement, only council members could use it. Ever since the day the Hojos quit the village council, their trash bags were returned to their front door. Furthermore, all the bags were torn. So people are dumping trash in their front yard. On top of that, a sign went up on the hedge road near the Hojos. It said, "Private road, no trespassing, only council members permitted." A stubborn old man stood and guarded the road, saying he wouldn't let any of the Hojo members pass through. A private road is private property open to the public, so it just looks like a normal road. However, as private property, the owner can forbid anyone else to pass through whenever they like. More and more, the village piled on vicious harassment. So they literally just like closed the road so they couldn't leave the house. I mean, I'm still thinking Shion should have shot Oryu. Okay. Maybe someone else will push this old hag off a cliff. This old power-hungry witch off a cliff. I feel like we won't be getting it. I feel like there's no good route with Oryu in it. She's just a terrible person. The fear of antagonism spread through the whole village, and people became afraid if they supported the Hojo family, they'd go through the same thing. That's right, you'll literally be put under house arrest for opposing Oryu, so. Oryu claims she can't kill anyone, but apparently she can put people under house arrest on demand for not committing crimes, even if they didn't commit a crime. Seems like it's a little bit risky. Yo, pushing people off a cliff isn't cool. Or maybe we could shove Oryu off a cliff. That'd be okay. This made the Hojo family even more isolated. The grown-ups haven't told their kids what's going on, so Satoko isn't harassed in any way at school, but it's not hard to imagine she probably spent her days feeling so anxious she could hardly breathe. Even the women whispering in here aren't saying anything directly to Satoko, but it's not like she doesn't notice their muttering and their cold stares. When did this village become so cold towards her? Because Oryu has the power to do whatever she wants in this village. As her best friend, it's very sad for me. Satoko's shopping experience is nothing like mine. When I say hello or buy things, I get treats or a discount. But that doesn't happen to Satoko. On the contrary, she's served last on purpose, and sometimes they pretend they don't even hear her. Obviously, people don't want to have anything to do with her. She'd been weaving through the housewives crowding the shop, telling the fishmonger what she wanted, but she kept getting ignored. She decided to keep her smile on and pretends she doesn't mind, but I know. It was far too painful for her to endure. At that point, Satoko dropped her coins on the ground. Maybe her finger got stuck on something when she's trying to put the change back into her wallet. I ran through the crowd to help her pick them up, but as I did, I noticed something. She dropped a lot of coins and is struggling to pick them up, but nobody's helping her. It's not just that. It's like they're acting like they don't see her there. She isn't expecting anyone to help since she's the one who dropped them. But there are so many people around, and not even a single person tries to help her. Satoko, I'll help you. I'm okay, Rika. The reaction's all I need to know to tell how hurt she is. Furthermore, when I started helping Satoko, other housewives started picking up the coins too, as if it's the natural thing to do, so they can only help if a shrine maiden of the Furude family does. When's the next GSSR? Probably Christmas. If I didn't help, they would have disregarded her completely. And the fact that the other people helped only because I did hurts Satoko even more. I grabbed the coins from the housewives without thanking them. I'd rather spit at them than do that. Thank you very much, Rika. Everyone. If she didn't thank them, people would talk about that too. She forced out her words of gratitude. The housewives looked down at her with blank expressions. I can't stand this. Can't stand what Satoko's going through right now. If we're done, let's go, Satoko. Sure. I grabbed Satoko's arm and pulled her away. I was frustrated, sad, and bitter. What had Satoko done? Well, reality is too cruel. Everyone loves me, but I can't. Can I share that love with Satoko? She must be wondering why people treat me so differently. I shouldn't come shopping with her, or rather, I should have done her shopping instead. Satoko. What is it, Rika? I feel bad you dropped your coins, so here's something that'll make you happy. I wanted her to at least ease her pain a little bit, so I pulled out the strawberry milk candy I received. But Satoko refused to take it. Candy was given to you. My hand froze. She saw me getting this candy. The person wanted you to eat it. So if I did, it'd be rather rude. Satoko turned her back on me and kept walking. Without even saying goodbye, she continued to her house with the shopping bags in her hands. I only wanted to ease her pain. And Thanksgiving. Nothing for Thanksgiving. No candy. No servants. No presents. Only pain. I tried to help her, but I ended up rubbing salt in the wound. How can I call myself her best friend? If I could, I would have crushed the candy right there. Alas, she's like 9 years old and can't crush candy in one hand yet. Wait a minute. How do you even celebrate the... How do you even celebrate Thanksgiving if you're not in North America? The real question. Here in Europe, how do you get Thanksgiving? I have no clue. But there's Mion's introduction. Strawberry milk candy required. We have that one for sure. I guess we're slowly going through these. How many fragments do we have? 2, 4, 6, 7. We have 7 fragments. We can start Matsuribayashi. We celebrate Black Friday, which is the same thing. I see. This fragment can't be connected yet. I have 7 fragments. Screw you. 7 fragments. Screw you. I have 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Eat a dick. Oh, whatever. We have strawberry milk candy, so I guess we'll go into that one next. Mion! Your friend's here. I heard the housekeeper's voice. I don't know whether the housekeeper is male or female. Our house and the front yard are huge. Unlike normal houses, ringing a doorbell or yelling my name repeatedly asking to play, it simply won't work. Okay, thank you. Who is it? Rika Furude-chan. Oh, finally. Can you tell Granny Rika's here? I think she's on the porch. I'll get the watermelon. Granny received many beautiful watermelons from somebody, so she wanted to share. I just called the Furude house a short time ago, and Rika's here to pick one up. Did she come on her bicycle? I can't remember if it's big enough to... If it's a big enough basket. I pulled the watermelon from the well while thinking about it. The cold water in the well has refrigerated the watermelon, and the condensation makes it look delicious. The 3 members of the family will enjoy it for at least 2 nights. I like how confident she is that... I like how confident she is that 3 people can't consume a watermelon in 1 day. There's a lot of confidence there when you're like, the 3 people of this family will spend at least 2 days consuming this watermelon. Am I supposed to take it home? I thought... What? Didn't your dad tell you? The priest answered the phone, and I thought I told him to come pick it up. Maybe I wasn't clear enough, or maybe he misunderstood me completely, but she's here to eat the watermelon, not to take it home. Besides, the small basket on Rika's bicycle won't hold the watermelon, and it's too dangerous for her to ride while holding it in her hands. Yeah, watermelons are pretty heavy if you're like 9 years old. Hey, why don't you help Rika take the water? There's no way she could ride her bicycle while carrying it. I can hold the watermelon. No, that's too dangerous. If something happened to you, I wouldn't know what to say to Oyashiro-san. Mion will help you. Okay, I will. I'll go say hello to the priest, too. No matter whether she rides or pushes her bicycle, Rika's hands will be occupied, so I'm going to carry that watermelon. Sky, it's turning auburn in the sunset. The cool breeze feels good on my sandaled feet, and the plastic bag I'm carrying contains the watermelon. And also some small bags of rock candy. You have 10-year-old cousins bigger than you? Jesus Christ. How small are you? I'm just imagining that you're like 3'5", and then you have your cousin walk up to you and he's like 7 foot even, and you're just like, see? The plastic bag I'm carrying contains the watermelon as well as some small bags of rock candy. If her mother finds them, she'll take them away, so we decided to eat them before we got to her house. We opened the bags and enjoyed the rock candy. Rika isn't an exception. Whenever kids from our neighborhood come to our house for errands, Granny gives them some treats. It's actually a pretty common rule here in Hinamizawa. It's funny, but sometimes when parents aren't watching, siblings will fight over who gets to take the circular notice to the next house over. So these bags of rock candy are like tips for them. Of course, she doesn't usually give out this much. Usually it's just a little piece. Granny's being extra nice to Rika. I feel bad getting all this candy. Oh, don't worry. Granny loves you. You should just thank her and put a big smile on your face, that's all. You had lots of treats? I used to. But right at this age, they don't give me any. If they did, though, I'd probably feel like I was being treated like a little kid. I'm being treated like a child. Well, that's okay. Look, enjoy it, Wake Up. When you become as old as me, you won't get any, even if you wanted some. As we talked about ordinary things, I noticed Rika seemed sad. What's wrong? I run errands. I get candy as a treat. But Satoko doesn't get any, even if she comes with me. I can think of so many reasons why. Not only Satoko, but everyone in the Hojos is being treated poorly in Hinamizawa. And the Sonozaki family are the ones who instigated it. The 2 dam supporters died in the accident already. I like how the wives are gossiping about the Hojos not getting the groceries themselves, and then the Sonozakis post a guard, an armed guard, at the door to their door to their property, preventing them from leaving. Like, that seems reasonable and consistent. But the malice against the Hojo family is still going, and directed against Satoko and Satoshi, their children. The aunt and uncle are taking care of them as well. The big fight between the Hojo families and Sonozakis at the explanatory meeting started all this. But that was the Hojo couple, and it shouldn't have anything to do with the children and their aunt and uncle. But the idea that the Hojo family are traitors evolved on its own, and therefore anyone bearing the Hojo name is to be treated poorly. The aunt and uncle weren't dam supporters, so over time the attacks should have stopped. But they're rather odd, and they keep having trouble with their neighbors. They don't follow the community rules, they don't do their community duties, and they spray pesticide while their neighbor's laundry is still hanging outside. They often get into fights with other villagers, and they'd be hated without the dam. Therefore, the Hojos continue to be treated poorly. But none of that should have anything to do with Satoko and Satoshi. They're often depressed at school. I tried to leave the conflict between the 2 families aside, but I wonder how they really feel about that. From their point of view, I'm just another member of the family that keeps harassing them. Don't want any of that at school. That's why I try to be their friend while we're there. How can we get that to extend outside instead of staying inside the school? That'd be pretty difficult. The Hojos made enemies of the 3 families. The 3 families are power-hungry assholes. They were branded as traitors, and it's still considered the truth. It wouldn't mean anything if one person suggested an end to hostilities just because the events around the dam are history now. On the contrary, that would just put them in the same position. Unfortunately for Satoko and Satoshi, the only thing they can do is wait patiently until the issue withers away. All I can do for them is provide an oasis until that day comes. How long do they have to wait? I don't know. The dam conflict lasted a few years. They were branded back then, so it might take years to clear that up too. I mean, they won't be forgiven until they become adults? Will Satoko have to live out her whole childhood going through that? Fuck everyone in this village, especially Oryu. It's pretty miserable, isn't it? We're their friends, aren't we? Sure, they're my friends. We're all buddies. Isn't there something we can do to help our friends? What exactly can we do? Even if the Sonozaki declares the dam conflict over, the Hojos are no longer outcasts. It won't solve the problem. It's not that simple. In the first place, Granny hates the Hojos and won't suffer their name to be mentioned in her presence. It's not a matter of someone forgiving another. It's a matter of very complicated ties between people in this village. Namely, power-hungry assholes with a lot of power, and people who are literally too broke to afford local taxes. It's absolutely terrifying to have them as your enemies. Everyone knows that very well, and that's why they maintain good relationships with their neighbors, because they're terrified that Miss Sonozaki is going to literally take them hostage. Seems alright. However, if you make enemies out of them, you'll have to face the consequences. It's the unwritten law of the Japanese community. Lovely community. Definitely want to move there. As the Sonozakis are a part of this unwritten law, now that the Hojo are outcasts, not even the family can overturn this. Even if it's an issue of Tanami-san, we can't do anything about it as president. Nope, apparently not. Miss Oryu decrees they suffer, but she doesn't decree they don't suffer. Fortunately, it's probably so young. If there's someone who can help Satoko, it must be someone who has nothing to do with the village. Wish they would like that here. Saying someone from outside has to help her? Like Rika says, would a knight in shining armor from the outside world ever come here? Would that person bring a new wind to this village that's been filled with stale air for hundreds of years? No way. That's just wishful thinking. Time will solve the problem one day. Until then, I have to be their ally, and I can't think of anything else I can do for them. As Rika and I crunch on our rock candy, we can only pray that people will forgive Satoko and her family sooner than later. I like how we've started out, and the first thing I thought is, if Rika just assassinated Oryu without anyone noticing, we probably wouldn't have this problem at all. In fact, we wouldn't have any of the horrible problems. Why is this a prerequisite? Is there not a timeline where Rika assassinates Oryu for causing so much trouble? That would be a good start. After all, if Satoko, time and death solve everything. I mean, there isn't a lot of things that can't be solved by murdering people. If anyone assassinates Oryu successfully around the start of the before the start of the dam conflict, or she has a heart attack, we'd be solving several major issues, namely the entirety of Satoko's problems. And we would be preventing the research team from progressing, so they might actually lose their funding. There's probably a world line where Oryu dies of a heart attack before the meeting or some shit. And in that theoretical reality, we could actually have the dam conflict might actually end in a defeat. And a defeat and the dam covers everything, resulting in most of the bad things never happening. There's probably a world like that. Possibly. There's also probably a world where Oryu isn't a complete bitch, but that one's probably not feasibly reachable. At least the one where she dies of a heart attack seems possible. Rika broke the silence gently. I know. I know someone who has absolutely nothing to do with the village will come here from the outside. That's damn complex stuff. It'd be great if more people moved into those lots for sale. Wouldn't it be fun if a family with a kid our age moved in? He'll come. I know. And we'll break this evil practice alongside him. That'll be the first key to one of the 3 locks that I was trapped in the past. What? What's this? Are you talking about a novel or something? Rika says some odd things sometimes. When she talks that way, she seems so mature, I even start to doubt she's really younger than I am. You need bad things in life, otherwise you won't enjoy the good times. Yeah, but I'm okay with that. I agree with that statement. But there aren't any good times to enjoy when you're Rika, and you're fully aware that you're trapped in a time loop that ends in you being murdered a bajillion times. She's unironically spent over 100 years trapped in a time loop where she's getting murdered repeatedly, so finding a line where you stab someone to get rid of the problem before it occurs seems like a legitimate outcome. Yeah, we're stuck in the ReZero, so we're stuck in ReZero, a really long one that lasts about 2 years. It lasts between 2 weeks and 2 years. So, if you're in a situation like that, maybe preventing the bad thing from happening in the first place is good enough, especially since you'll remember how it'll play out anyway. The unreasonable antagonism towards the Hojo family. Will there really be someone from the outside who will shatter our old traditions? Hope so. If you're in a situation like this, I think it's perfectly reasonable to be like, well, I'm going to test this out, because the consequence of Oryu dying, no one will be able to persuade the Child Center to save Satoko. The consequences of Oryu dying might also mean that Satoko does not need to be rescued because her aunt and uncle her parents don't get murdered. Because where is half the stress she's suffering coming from? The dam conflict. And her being treated poorly by literally everyone in the center. Like, I think there's a reasonable chance that her parents don't get murdered if they're not under a colossal amount of stress and or making someone in the family go crazy with the virus. So I think Oryu dying before the conflict and the conflict ending might actually be better for Satoko because she won't need to be saved. Because based on the information we have so far, her current stepfather is actually a decent person trying to make things go okay. And it's like her previous, from Satoshi's perspective, it is the previous stepfathers that were terrible. Yeah, if you could end the damn conflict early, or end it in a defeat, end it in a defeat for the Guardians, theoretically Satoko wouldn't need any help. You don't need to have stress, you just need to be a sociopath. The problem, yeah, maybe. But the goal is to prevent Satoko. If you prevent Satoko's parents from dying, then she doesn't need to be saved. So Oryu doesn't have a role in this drama. She's not needed. It's like Oryu is the solution to Oryu's problems caused by Oryu. So if we get rid of the problems caused by, if we get rid of Oryu, she can't cause problems that she can then later solve. Basically, she's like the source of the problem for Satoko. Which is great. Alright, red capsule, I don't think we have that one. Let's see, watermelon from the Sonozakis. Ryugu family move, I don't think we got that one. Ryugu family, I don't think we've seen that. A red capsule. I have the watermelon, I don't think I have the red capsule though. Huh. There's some interesting clips there too. Alright. Part-time job, Satoshi. Rock candy is a treat. Satoko's detailed test results, not done yet. Let's see. The Hojo siblings could be an answer. The Hojo family is well known for going against the whole village during the dam conflict. Both the husband and wife were rather aggressive and fought a fierce battle, especially against the Sonozakis. Although the whole village treated them coldly, the husband and wife didn't care and kept on fighting. In a way, they were extremely strong-willed people. I'm sure their children had to go through a lot because of them, though. Satoko and Satoshi were treated coldly by the villagers as well, and in addition to that, Satoko and her stepfather didn't get along, so their stress levels must have reached their limit. As I'm the director of the clinic, a rather respected member of society, people usually tell me a lot of things. Okay. So I was aware of the treatment they were receiving before I met them. I met Satoshi first. He came to the clinic because he fell ill from too much stress. He must have thought he had a cold. When I examined him, he even told me that. But hearing his repeated sighs and seeing the exhausted look in his eyes, I knew right away it wasn't a simple cold. Medication would heal his symptoms, but that'd only be a temporary measure. The only way to truly cure him would be to change his living environment. That was easier said than done. He was surrounded by tangled and complicated relationships with the village and his family, so just resting a few days and taking medication wouldn't do. What's he losing it over? Time was the only thing that would ease off the cold treatment from the villagers, but we were taking a very, very long time. We were talking a very long time. That's why I felt I had to be their first ally in the village so I could rescue them. I couldn't change anything about his stressful environment, but I could try to diminish the anxiety, so I thought the best way was to teach him how to vent his stress. Playing sports is the best way to do that, so I asked him to join the junior baseball team that I coach. As a researcher, I devote most of my time to the syndrome, but I, too, need to do something else to relax. I used to play baseball, so I decided to coach the local kids game. After a while, the children of Hinamizawa started their own baseball team, and somehow I became their coach. Doctors can't provide health just by giving medication. PTSD from Saber phases? That's weird. I thought his entire channel was based around Saber. How's he got PTSD from that? That's gonna be rough. You need a sound mind in a sound body, and I believe health can be maintained through sports. But our team needed more people, so I thought of asking Satoshi to join. Being a bookworm, he wasn't quite interested in playing sports. He wasn't sure how joining the team would help his situation. I didn't need to go on and on about athletic medicine or explain why sports help people become healthy. I just wanted him to experience it himself to realize how great it feels to play sports. I think he realized it gradually. He was reluctant till the end, but he attended all the team activities and games. As I saw Satoshi regain his liveliness, I realized my plan worked. Whoever Satoshi was under that much stress, then Satoko, who lived in the same climate, must have felt the same way. Unfortunately, I didn't think of her back then. When Satoko was carried into my clinic as a patient, I regretted doing nothing about her, even while knowing the situation. As Satoshi recovered under my guidance, Satoko was left alone in her stressful environment. And around that time, there was an incident bad enough to make Satoko collapse. That was, of course, her parents' deaths. The day of the Watanagashi was a very uncomfortable time for the Hojos, because although it was a festival, it was also a day to celebrate victory over the dam construction project. It's understandable they would plan a family trip around that time so they could leave the village. Satoko's parents fell off a cliff at the park they were visiting. It happened on such an unlucky day. Because it happened on the day of the Watanagashi, people said it was the curse of Oyashiro-sama, and people labeled them as the ones that were cursed by Oyashiro. The parents were given the cold shoulder by everyone in the village. So with their parents gone, Satoshi and Satoko should have been freed, but unfortunately the incident happened on the day of Watanagashi, and that's why the members of the Hojos continued to be shunned. Satoko was the only one who was at the site of the incident. Satoshi didn't go because he had an event with the baseball team. Therefore, the police mainly interrogated her. The detective Uishi suspected an act of organized crime by the village, so with Satoko as the only witness, he drilled her with questions. She was as stressed as Satoshi, perhaps even more, so of course she couldn't take it. During the interrogation, she began to wheeze and gasp for air. The anguished look I saw on Satoko's face when she was carried into the clinic was tragic. It broke my heart to imagine what she had to go through. Coach, is Satoki okay? Oh, don't worry, she's confused, but temporarily, that's all. May I see her? Finally fell asleep. I'd rather not wake her up yet. Let's give her some rest for a while. Maybe it's a good idea to have her stay here a few days, too. Don't worry, I'll take good care of her. Thank you. I know Satoshi is a great big brother who truly cares about his sister. He empathizes deeply with her. But he's like, I need to do research. In other words, Satoshi's worries and stress were reflecting Satoko itself. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but while Satoshi was sad about his parents' deaths, he may have, at the same time, been relieved they were gone. His sister wouldn't have to be driven into a corner anymore, and unlike Satoshi, Satoko didn't have the social skills to get along with her stepfather. Putting her mother aside, I'm certain losing her father, the greatest cause of stress in her life, would bring great change to her home environment. Alas, not in a positive way, but I couldn't believe what happened next. The two were sent to live in an even worse environment with her aunt and uncle. Although at the time I was rather optimistic, thinking this new environment would be better for the siblings. Yeah, bad trouble for all of them. Bad news for them. Sucks. They got a rough life. A really rough hand. Not helped by having enemies who hate them, even though they didn't do anything. Sucks to be them. Shopping trip and the Shinto priest? No. Footsteps? No. Rock candy and detail test? Nope. How many Oyashiro curse is there? How many times it happened? Like 5? It's like 4, right? It's happened 4 times, and the 5th one is the year we play out in the first game, right? Area's reminiscence? Try this one? There we go. I wanted to become a doctor since I was little. They make a lot of money. People look up to doctors. I think those are the reasons I had. Money, I see. When I play with my friends, I always acted like a doctor. I cleaned their wounds, I applied ice packs, and my friends sprained their ankles using what I learned from household medical books. Everyone, including me, believed I'd be a doctor one day. My family was poor, so they praised me for that one goal. They told me I needed to study a lot to become a doctor, so they borrowed some pseudo-medical books from the local library for me. The rental fees weren't cheap. Libraries that cost money. So I would speed read one book in a day, and the next day my parents would go back to the store to exchange it for different books, saying they accidentally borrowed a book they already borrowed, and by doing so they borrowed 2 books for the price of 1. Of course, now I know those books were rather useless, but they were highly motivational just the same. My neighbors called me Dr. Kyosuke-kun, and I was always picked for class health officer at school. What the fuck is a class? Oh yeah, it's Japan. They have weird things. That's the person who escorts people to the nurse's office, as I recall. Ritlin's a heck of a drug, able to finish entire books in one sitting. That's not too bad. It's very doable, if you can actually read that fast. Even my teachers helped me with the classes I needed to take to become a doctor. Of course, in reality, becoming a doctor isn't as easy as it might seem. I had to study diligently. The path was definitely rough. To become a doctor, one has to attend college, and since my family was poor, I was told I wasn't allowed to go to an expensive school, so I had to be admitted to a national public university. My grades weren't bad, but the admission rate was very marginal. I mean, medical school is really hard to get into, that's fair. Since I wanted to go to a medical school, my chances were even smaller. I studied like crazy. My only driving force was my childhood dream of becoming a doctor. The dream of becoming a doctor and to be looked up to by everyone kept going. And I was admitted. I wasn't at the top of the list, but I made it in. Finally, at the starting point of making my dream come true. Imagine, we get Takano's backstory over 4 chapters, but we get, like, what? An entire scene for Yuri? Alright. My parents were thrilled. Neither my father nor my mother went to college, so they were proud their son was getting into a public medical school. They invited our relatives over to celebrate. Although it was a public university, tuition wasn't cheap, but they still had an extravagant celebration ceremony. My father didn't express his emotions much. He always kept a straight face and rarely voiced his opinion or took initiative on anything. My mom took care of everything, and he showed up last and left without saying a word, the typical stern, silent Japanese father of the time. That's why I was surprised to see him shedding tears of joy, and I cried along with him. He went around to all my relatives, repeatedly slapping my back, saying how proud and lucky he was to have a son like me. He bragged about my achievements to all who would hear them. The celebration became my farewell party as I was about to leave for Tokyo. My father yelled "Bonsai" repeatedly at the station as the train pulled away. I was a little embarrassed, but when I could no longer see him, I could clearly recall the tears pouring down. The days of hellish studying and exams began after that. Becoming a doctor is not fucking easy, man. I don't envy people who study to become a doctor. That's a lot of work. Some days I was tempted to give up and submit myself to the lavish lifestyle of the city. But the letters from my family always encouraged me and gave me the strength to go on. My dream then was to open my own clinic in my hometown so I could contribute to the region. I never even dreamed of getting involved with brains. One day I noticed a difference in a letter from my family. The letter said the usual things about how I was at home and asked how I was doing, but the postscript was what caught my attention. Your father has become violent lately. Sometimes he turns the house upside down and I don't know what to do. I just couldn't picture him acting viciously. I was extremely surprised. Did something happen? In the postscript, my mother said there was nothing she could think of. My mother and father had been together a long time. They'd been together since before I was born, so she noticed things I couldn't. She couldn't even think of a reason why my father had become so violent. Oh, that's not good. Is her father from Hinamizawa? I'm curious if that's the case. What happened? They got along so well. They were such a lovely couple. When I caused a problem for my mother when I was little, my father only bonked my head with his knuckle. Why is he acting this way towards my mother? Maybe there's another misunderstanding between them? I was going home for the new year. Maybe I could have a good talk with him then. But the situation was more serious than I thought. One cold winter day, I found my apartment door unlocked. I thought someone broke in, but I found my mother in my apartment with her luggage. That's right, my mother couldn't take my father's fury and came to stay with me. This is back when people still believed in the proverb, a woman has no place to settle down all her life. She couldn't go back to her own family because they lived in the same region as my father, so she came all the way to Tokyo. I have no clue where they live. I heard about my father's violence from my mother's own lips. She cried, saying she had no idea why such a quiet man changed like that. She said she wasn't going back to him. Well, that's rough. I hope Erie can find his way through college. I didn't know what to do. I asked her if she could talk to him one more time, but the bruises on her body told me it wasn't any use. To remember what happened afterwards is too much, so I'll be brief. After my mother left, my father thought she was having an affair and went to the neighbor's house with a wooden sword. He was arrested. He was released immediately, but assumed someone in the neighborhood was hiding her, so he did the same thing repeatedly. He eventually reached the point of getting into fights with anyone he saw, and in the end he picked a fight with some young punks, ended up being beaten to death. My relatives gave my father a decent funeral, but my mother didn't attend. It's no use beating a dead horse, so nobody said anything negative about him. Everyone was simply puzzled as to why he changed so much. What I heard from my relatives about my father's final days was a lot stranger than what I heard from my mother. She only told me about his sudden rage and violence, but my relatives told me he laughed and grew sad. Apparently, he displayed several fluctuations of emotion, especially in his latest years. They told me he started complaining about headaches after an accident. He was a construction worker. He'd hit his head on a construction board during an accident at work. He regained consciousness quickly and seemed fine. But since the accident, he started to have headaches and behave abnormally. Yeah, you can actually get like this from head trauma, actually. I sensed the connection between the accident and my father's changes, so I talked to my professor after I went back to Tokyo. Yeah, concussions can be pretty serious. They have a serious problem with that in the NFL, as I recall. That's why NFL players don't last that long. Lots of head trauma in the NFL. I can't say for certain. It sounds it's possible your father suffered some kind of brain damage. There's a chance that blow to his head caused an organic mental disorder. The symptoms your father showed in his final years are similar to the delirium and mental fluctuations we've often seen in similar patients. Human behavior is created by the brain, and if the brain is damaged, it can cause erratic behavior. Fair enough. In other words, my father wasn't crazy, he was suffering from a disorder. If you could perform an autopsy on him, you should check his brain carefully. Maybe you'll find something like a tumor there. My father had already been cremated, so there was no way of knowing. But hearing about his behavior, I knew for sure that it was the only way to explain why such a quiet, gentle man would suddenly change. I tried to explain this to my relatives to regain my father's honor, but hardly anyone understood. Looks like you're going to be sitting on a pile of zinc quartz at the end of the year, my friend. If his brain was damaged, he would have been dead. But he was alive and well, so the accident didn't damage his brain. It wasn't his brain that caused him to change, it was his mind. They simply brushed it off like that. This is the perception most people have about the brain. I don't know who the fuck you're talking about, but I know you can cause... I know mental or head trauma can cause serious personality changes. That's not exactly a complicated concept. They don't realize the mind and brain are connected. Most of the relatives didn't believe me, but there was one person who I really wanted to anyway. That was my mother. As she got older, she grew senile, and she exaggerated the abuse she had to endure. All she did was criticize my father, and every time she ended up crying, lamenting she married him. They were a lovely couple. We were a great family! That's why I wanted to convey to her she was misunderstanding the situation with my father. His behavior was caused by his brain damage. What he did to her was sad, but he didn't want to be that way. I told her he wasn't at fault. But my mother didn't quite understand. Before she took her last breath, I begged her to forgive him. But her final words were, "Don't bury me next to that man." My father wasn't at fault. He was simply the victim of a brain disorder. You don't complain to a person who's coughing because he has a cold, because coughing's a symptom and he should be sympathized with. In my father's case, the symptoms weren't as obvious as a cough. They took the form of changes in personality, which are much harder to recognize. If I'd studied the brain more, I could have explained it better to her so that she could have understood him. They could have been a nice couple together in heaven. When I realized that, I cried. I also realized there are plenty of other people like my father in this world suffering from a disorder, misunderstood and despised for it. And then I found a miraculous cure for such disorders called lobotomies. Oh boy! The cure-all drug to any mental problems. Just give someone a lobotomy, problem solved, easy. Ever since that day, I spent my days learning about the brain so I could help people who are suffering from mental illness. My father is gone, but he was still alive. I'd cure him myself. Don't you love that? So he and my mother could reconcile. That's right, we'll just give your father a lobotomy because it sounds like post-lobotomy. A post-lobotomy patient is probably about the same as your father most of the time. That's the main reason why I'm here. Oh, I don't know if you guys love lobotomies, but apparently Erie does. The cure to all his childhood problems. Yep, lobotomized husband. Literally can't do anything. He's a step above a vegetable. But yeah, I'm sure that's great. Alright, let's see. I think we can do this one, because Hanyuu apologized repeatedly. Let's see. think we can do this one? Let's see. Early summer 1979. Anno Domini. A Tauntsi? There's not very many Tauntsi's in the game. The only good one does not get a rerun, as I recall. Damn it, shit. Manager? Manager, come on, say something. Manager? Idiot. He's dead already. A loud noise snapped everyone out of it. Someone dropped the shovel he was holding. It was smeared with reddish-black blood. Well, not just the shovel. All 6 construction workers' clothes were blood-soaked, too. One of them cried out to the silent dead body of the manager, drenched in blood. Manager! 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 Shut up. He's dead already. It was self-defense, right? Self-defense. Uh-huh. The fight started after the manager yelled at them for drinking beer in the office. There were no drinking and no smoking signs afterwards. Yep, the dismembered damn manager time. Blood's not dark red in China, it's white. Oh my goodness. Chinese censorship's so funny sometimes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, it's true. White. They changed blood from red to white in some Chinese censorship. It's so funny. Looks like a massive orgy took place in the room. Which is funny because they also hate adult content. I know who that manager is? Yeah, it's Ueshi's friend, right? The manager who's dead is Ueshi's friend. The manager harshly scolded anyone who broke that rule. So it was the 6 workers' fault for disobeying. But they drank because they were stressed out by the anti-dam protesters. That's why they said things to provoke him. They told him to step out, and the others went along. The construction workers toiled hard and long hours. That's why they instigated the fight with the manager to release their stress. They expected to just curse at each other or end up in a wrestling match, but things escalated. Or to put it more accurately, the manager exploded all of a sudden. He had to deal with the residents' protests as well, so he was under just as much pressure, or even more. How he changed was not normal, though. He was calm at first, but he gradually became more aggressive. It was like he transformed into someone completely different, or like he was possessed by something evil. Wait, you like the voice? Well, there you have it. Yep, the one that's still missing his hand, yep. The evil men who instigated the fight sobered up when they saw his behavior. And then, the manager picked up a shovel that was nearby and tried to smash his opponent's head with it. He managed to avoid the hit, but if he didn't, his head would have been split open. The manager kept pounding on him with the shovel, even as he frantically tried to avoid the hits. And by this time, the workers realized this was beyond a simple fight, so they tried to hold him down. But he turned on them with the shovel too. One of the men tried to protect himself by crossing his arms above his head. But there was no way he could have blocked a shovel swung with that much force. Blood spurted out and the man groaned in pain, and by this time, the 6 men had realized the manager was not his usual self. This manager would try to bash in their brains without hesitation. Since their opponent was using a shovel as his weapon, they had to find their own weapon too. One of them grabbed a huge hammer. The others realized they needed to find something as well. To restrain the manager in that condition, it's better to arm themselves. Did I watch the show? I watched a couple episodes of The Boys. It didn't seem particularly interesting to me. That's my opinion on The Boys. It's supposed to be this way. It didn't take long for the madness to infect the 6 workers. It was only a matter of time before they went from restraining him to lynching him. And by the time they realized what happened, the manager was already a lump of meat. His face swollen, shreds of skin had been torn off and his muscles and skull were visible too. Obviously he was quite dead. Oh, he almost killed us, remember? If he hadn't attacked us, we wouldn't have fought him, right? The leader of the 6th, the one who instigated the fight, tried to bring the rest to his side, but nobody replied. I mean, he did drag the manager out there for a fight. And so the leader became frustrated. He was the one who started the fight. The rest simply joined in. He's the main perpetrator. Maybe that's why he was feeling so exasperated. He sensed he was the one at fault. Don't just stand like a limp noodle. Don't just stand there like a limp noodle. It's too late. We killed him. There's nothing we can do about it. We're all murderers now. Fuck up. You ain't thinking about turning yourself in and doing time, are you? Fuck you. I can't go to the slammer at my age. We're hiding it. We're hiding the corpse and pretending nothing happened. Alright. Some of them knew he was on probation for an assault incident once before, so if he got into trouble with the law again, the punishment would be more severe than they could imagine. That's why he's trying to find a way out. If he's alone with the body, he wouldn't have behaved this way. All he would have to do is hide the body and pretend nothing happened. But there's 6 of them, including him. They're partners in crime, witnesses. If even one of them turns themselves in out of guilt, he'd be in big trouble. But if we hide the body, we'll find out sooner or later. Instead, we should plead justifiable self-defense. They might end up pardoning us. Don't be stupid. Look what we did. Look at his face. Who'd think this is the result of self-defense? His parents wouldn't even be able to identify him in this condition, you idiots. Yeah, this is the first year of Oyashiro's curse. The dam manager gets murdered by the crew. Kill all the witnesses, easy. This is 5 people. You'd have to kill 5 other healthy people? With what, a shovel? Good luck. If we hide it, everyone's gonna find out tomorrow when the manager doesn't show. It's hopeless. What's hopeless is your damn brain, shithead. He slapped the other man in the face. The leader had such an evil look in his eyes. Listen well, dipshits. We're all murderers, alright? Keep griping now and we'll all get slammed with 5 or 6 years. Just one of you here try and blab. We'll all be locked up. Don't misunderstand the pen. Don't underestimate the pen. If you're prepared to be caught anyway, run like your life depends on it. You can resign yourself to it later when it's time to pay the piper. That didn't even make sense. His visage turned more and more demonic. It was the same expression the manager had a few minutes before. Was he possessed by the same thing that possessed the manager? Time for him to get disappeared. The 5 men started thinking that way. Now that they considered it, all the villagers in the dam protest had the same expression on their faces too. The real name of Hinamizawa was Onigafuchi Village. People said that wicked demons lived there and sometimes they possessed people. The men couldn't help but recall the exaggerated story often told by the demonstrators. The manager swung the shovel after his expression changed to that demonic one. There was no guarantee this man wouldn't do the same. In fact, he was still squeezing the hammer in his hand, glaring at everyone and threatening them. I'd like to thank Oryu for escalating things to this level. If someone suggested surrendering, he'd probably smash their head in with it. I know. Whoa, what's that static? Make sure nobody betrays their... I have an idea. It'll make it easier to hide the body, too. What's... We're gonna cut up the body into 6 pieces. What? They all wanted to object to the idea. Killing him was a serious crime itself. Dismembering it would be too much. But if anyone objected, they'd be killed on the spot. So no one said anything. We'll cut him up together. Remember what the manager used to say? Teamwork! We're all in this together! We'll each take a body part. We'll hide it responsibly. What do you think, huh? This way we're all equally guilty, right? Right? I won't let anyone give themselves up. Ooh. Teamwork makes the dream work. Exactly. They can hide a body way easier if it's chopped into 6 pieces and 6 people take it home. The 5 men were taken in by his ghastly face. They could even feel the fear of Onigafuchi demons creep up their back. And why is this so damn loud? That background track is really loud for some reason. I don't know why. Like they just decided to mix this one really loudly. Nothing brings people together like a dead body? Absolutely. Absolutely. Alright, he's dead. Let's see. No test results or decisions. The tragedy of the dam, it's done. I think she got hospitalized. We can do both of these, I think. I guess we'll start with the first sacrifice. Time to make a sacrifice. Our first sacrifice, boys. I was half asleep, so I didn't hear the phone ringing nearby, and after a while I realized it was ringing. A ringing phone means some kind of emergency, right? It's 2 in the morning. That seems like a reasonable time. Who would even call me at this time of night? I would. Hello, this is Eri. Sorry to bother you, Eri. It's Takano-san. She's never called me for a personal reason. At the Institute, she's ranked just below me, so she's basically responsible for running it. So for her to call me, it must be an emergency. Sorry it took me so long. Is it true we have another terminal patient? Yes. I was hoping to find a living specimen, so this is perfect. I initially thought she'd abducted someone. The man had already been moved to the research area in the clinic's basement. Ah, perfect. The basement research center. Totally legit. Having been tied down to the examination table, he's struggling against his restraints, but more as though he's deranged than actually resisting. I can't even understand what he's saying. He sounds angry, sorrowful, and like a child throwing a tantrum all at once. It's obvious he's not in the right state of mind. Anyway, let's put him under anesthesia. He might kill himself otherwise. I wanted to observe him longer, but I guess I have no choice. One of the staff with a white gown got the anesthesia ready. Even a normal person would struggle to escape a restraining table in this suspicious room, but this man's behavior is at an abnormal level. I'm sure Okanogi-san and his friends from the Mountain Dogs are the ones who captured him. Capturing someone in this state of mind couldn't have been an easy task. According to Takano, she ran into him on the way home from the clinic by accident. She brought him back here, tested him, and the result came back positive. Of course, I have no intention of just believing what she's telling me, but there's no question this man is at the terminal stage, and a live specimen is exactly what we need to research the syndrome. So we're just gonna grab someone. Who is this guy anyway? Oh, he had something wrapped in the newspaper. What do you think was in it? What's this? There's something wrapped in a bloody newspaper on a tray nearby. Looking at the blood-drenched paper, I can only imagine there's something gruesome inside of it. Yet Takano looked like she wanted to surprise me with something interesting. Oh god, this is awful. It's a bloody right arm. The man on the table still has his. This doesn't belong to him. Who does it belong to? I'm used to looking at things like this as a doctor, but the horrible cross-section makes me want to look away. He's like, this cross-section sucks. It wasn't done. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? You run into someone on the way home and they have a literal severed arm and he's like, absolutely disgusting. You didn't cut this properly according to a medically acceptable method. How dare you? How dare you cut this improperly? It was obviously done out of cruelty. Judging by the situation, we can assume the man cut off this arm. He's the culprit behind the body dumping that's going in the neighborhood? At that point, there was no way of knowing who the right arm belonged to. But the next morning, the dismemberment murder of the damn construction director was reported. They mentioned that his right arm was still missing, so we learned who the arm belonged to. Oh, this man has a criminal record, and he's on probation. Yet he committed another crime. I bet he dismantled the body to hide it. Sure, it depends on the circumstances, but he'll get more than a few years in prison. Well, he won't hesitate to dissect a scumbag like him, right? Who knows, maybe he's a scumbag before and became violent due to the syndrome. Or maybe he went straight and became violent due to the syndrome. The former is one thing, but if it's the latter, it's not really his fault. Time for work. The place someone lost a limb a couple days ago. Yeah, a little bit uncomfortable, isn't that? Stay safe, my dude. Stay safe. That was why Hinamizawa syndrome is so terrifying. We can't tell if the syndrome is the cause of the crime or a problem of human nature. What causes a defect of human nature in the first place, though? It's what Erie's area of research was. Hate the crime, not the criminal. Can criminals only be corrected by punishing them with imprisonment? If a person commits a crime because of a mental disorder but then gets treatment, he's corrected. In other words, there are no crimes in this world, only patients awaiting treatment without anyone being able to understand them. Although the treatment sometimes is like money or food or slapping them repeatedly because holy shit, some people are kleptomaniacs and it's stupid. In medieval times, patients with mental disorders were said to be possessed by demons and either confined or killed. Centuries after, they were acknowledged as mentally ill who needed treatment. Perception can change with time. Even if they're called criminals now, maybe after several centuries, those criminals will be acknowledged as patients who are entitled to appropriate treatment. Explaining crimes through illness instead of malice. That's my life's work. Oh, good luck. Hinamizawa syndrome is a strange disease that can support your theory. Solving its mysteries is extremely important to me. Best of luck, my dude. To solve these mysteries, I need a medical sacrifice. So I'm just gonna go get one from a random person. It's sinful, but there's no way to unravel it without it. The Institute was authorized to take such drastic measures if necessary. That's why I was asked about it so many times when I accepted the position of director. And finally, the opportunity is here. This will be the first step of our research on this strange disease. But even now, I'm somewhat hesitant. I've opened human bodies in surgeries before. But what I'll be doing on this man is very similar, but there's something very different. What I did before was part of treatment. I did it to save their life. I did it so they could have a better future. But what I'm trying to do here isn't treatment. He'll die at the end of it. His death will be far from humane. I'm gonna violate nature and force him to stay alive while I open up his brain. Director Erie, are you listening? Sorry. Could you repeat that? I believe it's best we submit the dissection proposal to Tokyo and request their assistance. He's not only alive, he's also in the terminal stage, so he's an extremely important specimen. We must conduct it very carefully. True, you're right. Let's do this as you say. I think we'll have a few days before the dissection. I want to run some reaction tests once he's off the anesthetic. You think that's safe? Even if he's restrained, we don't know what'll happen. Oh, we finally have an opportunity to test a live specimen. We can't only look into his brain. Takano's unusual cheerfulness made me feel odd. Maybe her reaction is normal. Maybe I'm the one not reacting normally in the situation. And he's like, Takano is literally laughing at the potential to like torture someone and do illegal medical procedures on them, and you're like, maybe I'm the weird guy. I'm only here for the research. I should be excited to have the opportunity to perform our first live dissection, but I'm still hesitant. How do I call myself a researcher? Researchers of the past were brave enough to cross the line, and that's how they accomplished a lot of things. I guess that's true. I've seen many brains and operated on them. I've lost some patients too, but I never thought anything of it because I knew I did the right thing, even when my hard work was denied afterwards. If it pained me to think of that, then I just needed to advance the field of medicine to ensure their deaths weren't wasted. It's the true form of those advancing the field of medicine. Yet, why is my heart tormented so much by changing the name from treatment to dissection? Does it mean I'm not man enough to emulate the great men of the past who opened doors to new medicine? That I don't have the power to develop new advances myself? What's the matter, Director? Are you feeling okay? Takano pretends to be concerned about me, but she knows I'm still hesitating, and she's telling me I should be ashamed as a researcher for feeling that way. Shook my head to clear of sleepiness. Damn. Well, Erie's the one who signed up for this at the start, so... Erie. Here we thought he was a nice guy, but he's like, yeah, I don't like having to get permission for medical procedures for my patients. I'm just gonna do whatever I want to them. And if I feel like killing them for research, it seems fair. Remember the resolve that brought me here. I already have blood on my hands, but if I stop now, their lives will be wasted. Those who shed their blood can only rest in peace once they become the cornerstones of great research. So, if you run into a mad doctor who grabs you on the street and murders you to further his research, it's perfectly fair. That is probably the worst justification for murder I've seen in a long time. These guys both have terrible reasons to murder people. Like, well, I think if I murder this person, I could probably solve something faster. Naturally, I'll murder them instead of killing myself. Because, you know, why would I want to die? Alright, dude. I shook my head once more and reminded myself I'm a researcher. No. I was just thinking. Takano, please make some arrangement with Tokyo. Let me know when it's done. Understood. What is Takano thinking here? She's the one who suggested this, but they were already authorized for it. This is exciting. The least I can do is my best, so his life won't be wasted. If he bleeds, I can't waste a drop of his blood. After scolding my staff for their indiscretion of discussing the dissection with such excitement, I returned to my office. He's like, stop talking about the dissection, it'll happen later. A live dissection. Magnificent. Alright. Third year curse. What if become a doctor? Let's see. The death of Satoko's aunt. This section is required. Help from the Queen Carrier. I think we can do this one next. Satoshi is a good brother who takes great care of his sister. He went to visit Satoko straight after school and kept encouraging her to get better every day. Without even hearing Satoshi's stories, it's obvious to me Satoko never had a good relationship with her stepparents. She especially didn't get along with her stepfather. Satoko even called a child abuse hotline once. Not only that, her parents ended up dying in an accident, so she just wasn't able to withstand all that damage. Satoko is still very young, so everything must have been horrible for her to go through. But fortunately, she has a wonderful brother. Emotional wounds are hard to heal, but nothing heals those wounds better than the love of family. I'm sure one day, Satoko will be able to smile again. She's still in shock, but when she talks to Satoshi, she smiles a little bit. Uishi keeps requesting to see her, but I think I need to protect her for just a little longer. While he's passionate about his job, I wish he'd be a touch more sensitive. If he reminds her of her parents' accident, her emotional wounds will start to open again. That's the one point I worry about with Satoko. I heard someone knocking on the door. It was Takano. It doesn't look right wearing a nurse's uniform like that. She's a licensed doctor. She should wear a white coat and act like one. Maybe this is fun for her. I think she might be insulting the real nurses. I didn't say anything, though. She's like, I'm a doctor, but I'm going to pretend to be a nurse. Part of her, Dr. Erie, may I talk to you? Yes, well, Satoshi, if you'll excuse me. Sure. Hello, Satoshi. Keep Satoko company. She's always alone, so I bet she's lonely. Alright? No, that's not true. It's not true. Okay, Satoshi, you're in charge? I got up and let Satoshi take over. Did something happen? Not here. Let's go to your office. Takano smiled meaningfully. Usually smiles bring happy feelings. When it comes to Takano, that's rarely the case. Man, why would you even work with someone like this? Like, whenever they laugh, it means something bad. Are you sure? Yes. The initial test results show there's a possibility she's at level 3 or above. We need to keep her here and run some tests. The results aren't in yet, but from what I can see, it's possible she's at level 4. Takano's eyes sparkled in a weird way. There's a reason for that. For us, finding patients in the terminal stage is a valuable boon to our research. In fact, as a result of dissecting the murder suspect from last year, we've made great progress. In other words, we managed to isolate the pathogen. We discovered that when the host dies, the pathogen melts away within but a few hours. And once that happens, it's undetectable. That's why we never found the pathogen when we performed autopsies. Our research made a lot of progress after that. What we found in the past year has easily surpassed what the late Dr. Takano found in decades. We're studying the nature, the effect, the symptoms of the pathogen, as well as treatments and vaccines. In other words, a living specimen who's at the terminal stage is a necessity for our research. However, we rarely find a patient who's gone that far, who's reached level 5. Congratulations, you've reached level 5. You can now be attacked by Takano and Eerie and hacked to pieces beneath their merciless blades for their own amusement. Hanamizawa syndrome once created huge numbers of level 5 patients, but today it doesn't have that kind of potency. Because of that, we have to secure level 5 patients or patients close to level 5 as quickly as possible. Satoko might qualify to be that next sacrifice. Keep this strange disease a secret. We can't let patients who might be at level 5 go. We have to run more tests. Then we'll figure out what to do next. In any case, Satoko seems so calm. Her behavior is nothing like the man from last year. Initial tests are in error sometimes. We'll have to wait for the results to determine how serious her condition really is. Okay, let's admit her for observation. Please let the staff know to get things ready. Sounds like a formal answer, but the results... If the results come back positive, that'll be the green light for her dissection. I don't know Satoko that well, but I've known her brother, Satoshi, through the baseball team for a long time. How could I dissect the apple of Satoshi's eyes? I can feel scary images flashing in my head for the first time. Don't worry, everything's taken care of. She smiles as if telling me that the dissection is already being prepared for, too. Is it just her who's smiling? And you're like, this is a good person I should be working with, and they're like obsessively murdering people. It's great. Am I smiling like her too? When I dissected the man last year, I felt guilt beforehand, but once I started, it was like I was in paradise. All the pieces of the puzzle left by the late Dr. Takano fell into place, and at the same time they didn't. How exciting it was. Knowing we're the first to take the first steps to solve a mystery. I don't even know how to explain this feeling to those who've never experienced it. There's no way to describe it with words. The only thing I can say is, even a year later, I still remember it vividly. So if the results showed Satoshi's beloved sister is to be dissected, can I control myself? Can I stay calm? Well, that might mean I'm a failure of a human being. I know well that the Hojos were treated poorly by the villagers, and I know Satoko had to what she had to go through. And I know Satoshi loves his sister, his one and only blood relative. How can I dissect her using my research as an excuse? Well, I didn't feel guilt for the last person, but I feel a bit of guilt towards Satoko. It means what I did last year was wrong. But I don't care if a stranger dies. I don't want Satoko to die. That's not quite right. All lives are equally precious. I tried to convince myself he was a violent murderer, but maybe he only became that way because he was at the terminal stage. I don't know anything about him before he became that way. Maybe he's a model citizen worthy of respect. Unfortunately, he became ill and did what he did. And maybe he was a victim himself. Just like my father. I know more about the syndrome than anyone. The disease makes people act strangely without those people realizing it. When the people at the terminal stage do strange and violent things, one should be sympathetic. I already knew that when I decided to go down this path. I should have remembered it sooner, but I only did it now. That's right, you killed him. Good job. I finally realized what sinful research I'm working on. Hojo's test results came back. They say level 5. She's at the terminal stage of the terminal stage. It's actually a surprising result. In last year's case, the patient was extremely deranged. According to Takano's records, he complained about itching coming from the lymph nodes all over his body and wanted to claw at his throat, just like the late Dr. Takano mentioned. But Satoko isn't displaying those symptoms. Even in the late Takano's data, throat clawing is said to be a characteristic symptom of terminal stage patients, but not all patients experience that symptom. Perhaps emotional expression is different in each person. Even if it's the same emotion, one patient may express it rather violently and another calmly. There's no way of knowing just by looking at a person. But Satoko's detailed test results say she's at the terminal stage, level 5. In other words, she's feeling what the man from last year was feeling. It's just that she isn't expressing that feeling the same way the man is. Hinamizawa syndrome affects the frontal lobes of the brain, stimulating the most primitive emotions. Doubt, strongly. As a result, terminal patients are trapped in delusions and paranoia and end up committing horrible crimes. She seems to show improvement when she exchanges friendly words with Satoshi, but there's a paranoia inside her that may put her in a deranged stage at any moment. I can't let her leave the clinic like this, but if things go according to the manual, I'll have to make a decision on her dissection. My decision will only be a formality. I can't actually refuse. Takano appears to be working on the dissection schedule already. The plan will then come to me. Would I feel the same way while dissecting Satoko? Would I be able to experience that trance once again? Well, can I fight the temptation? As I pretended to question myself, I'm letting Takano prepare things on her own. By doing so, am I passively agreeing to Satoko's dissection? Well, if possible, I want to save her. I don't want her to be a sacrifice for this research. I don't want to dissect her. What about the man from last year? Do I only care about the lives of people I know? If I don't dissect her, do I let her live and leave? Do I wait for her to become deranged to commit a horrible crime? And then she'll end up here, like the man from last year, and I'll end up dissecting her anyway. The man from last year was dissected alive and kept that way for several months. With his skull left open, he wasn't allowed to die for several months, kept alive just for our cruel experiments. I don't want to do that to her. I don't know what to do. Well, debating and agonizing, it leads towards consent. Or dissection by elimination. Dr. Erie is a wonderful doctor. He seems to want to lean towards no. We don't have help from the Queen Carrier. We don't have the death of the ant. An accident at the park, perhaps? No accident at the park yet, I don't think. P103 and H107. The truth of the accident. Nope. Nope. The old guy. There we go. Death of the damn construction site manager. Here we go. Might have missed one. This is an interesting way to have us go through these. I don't know what to say. I want to say something, but I can't think of the right words. I can only sigh. Where are we? Ishi, I've been looking for you. Section manager asking me about the wanted poster. What? This is the place of rest. As Kumagai barged into the room, the old coroner snapped back at him. Sorry, the section manager asked me about the wanted poster for the suspect? Can you talk to Komayama about that? I need to speak to the coroner here. Could you tell him I'll be right over? Okay. Kumagai ran out of the room with the same haste he entered in. Lively, isn't he? Old man would have slapped him for making such a fuss. You should probably go back too. The air in here isn't for people who aren't used to it. Oh, you're right. If I slack off too long, I might get slapped as well. Here in Shishibone, all the hoodlums cross the street when you pass through, yet he's the only one, past or future, who's ever punched you for splitting your sumo wrong. He really was a merciless man. I think he punched me more times than my real father. Doesn't matter if he's your real one or not. If you looked up to him in the same way, he really was a father to you. Okay. My real father passed away in Nagoya. He was unlucky. If he wasn't given the order to move to a plant in Nagoya, he wouldn't have died in an air raid. If he could have rode it out another half a year or so, the war would have been over. I was sad, of course, but I was grown up enough by then I didn't cry into the ground like my mother did. But people feel sadness in different ways. For some people, it comes all at once as an overwhelming wave. For others, they feel sadness gradually over a long period of time. I think I was the latter. When he was alive, I only thought of him as annoying. In my mind, I even cursed him with questions about why he avoided the draft, as I thought my feelings towards him would always be the same. And then the war ended. I saw families and friends being reunited with joy as they came home from the front, and it finally happened. I grieved for my father's death. Japan was filled with people sad and full of despair. I knew I wasn't the only one whose life ended that way. But I remember I was very, very, very heartbroken. After the war, the nation completely changed. As a policeman, the environment I worked in went through sudden changes too. To forget my sorrow, the only thing I could do was devote myself to my work. At the time, I was in charge of busting people for buying rice illegally. Do they mean actual rice, or do they mean, like, heroin? Is there a drug that rice is... Oh, could it be, like, cocaine? I assume that there is a drug that is actually rice. I conducted spot checks on travelers at major train stations, and boy did I find a lot of them. There's a fairly big black market in Gogura, and a lot of people came from as far as Osaka to buy it. After the war, Japan faced a chronic shortage in food supply. Oh, okay, it's actual rice. What? To those ends, the nation instituted a food rationing program by signing the Food Control Act. But the rations the government provided weren't close to being enough to feed families, and people had no choice other than to buy food and supplies on the black market. The government hardly had enough food for rations, but there were somehow plenty on the black market. The dealers there sold it at outrageous prices, and some of them became quite wealthy. The Sonozaki family made their money through that black market, but that's another story. The government didn't bother arresting the dealers, for with their money they were able to buy off the top members of the police department. Instead, they went after the people buying the goods and even confiscated the rice they bought by selling everything they owned. So poor person buys rice at outrageous prices to feed their family. The police confiscate the rice, So they have literally nothing. And then are like, we're not going to touch these people selling you the rice because they're doing fine. They're making money, so we can't hurt them. Boy, I love capitalism. I remember that. Wasn't there a prosecutor who starved himself to death? There was. The prosecutor who vowed not to eat illegal rice starved to death. Wasn't it in 1947? It was horrible. He, a public prosecutor, proved it himself. People couldn't survive by adhering to the law. He'd grown tired of the government charging people with doing what they had to survive, and he proclaimed he was never going to buy black market rice again. In 1947, he starved to death when he was only in his mid-30s. The law prohibited people from buying black market rice, but that was the only way to survive. That's gotta be one of the most ironic deaths I've ever heard of. In that case, was the Food Control Act a bad law itself? The death of the prosecutor was seen as a desperate message to the government about the unjustness of the law. We rounded up people with bags of rice and lined them up at the temporary inspection point next to the station. It was like a military tribunal. We inspected their bags and confiscated everything they bought at the black market. The women all cried. They sold everything they owned to buy the rice. But apparently, again, we don't punish dealers. We just punish people buying necessary goods? They pleaded if we confiscate that rice, how would they feed their starving children? Well, I guess the answer is your children die, and the rich guy who sold it to you gets to laugh. Doesn't make sense, huh? They forbade you from going after the sellers, so it's unfair from the point of view of the people. Everyone was on edge. If they heard a police inspection was set up at the station, they'd jump off the train and run. We were aware of these people, so we set up several officers near jump-off spots to capture them. I remember chasing after women carrying kilos of rice on them. That was when I first met the old man. Hey, was I surprised. Remember my father? He looked exactly like him. I really thought maybe my father miraculously survived the air raid in Nagoya. I was chasing a man running from the inspection point. There was no way for him to run with a heavy bag of rice on him, so either he'd get arrested with the rice or escape by dishing the rice he bought by selling all of his belongings. In other words, if a person's being chased by the police, that person can't provide his family any rice to eat. Of course, I felt guilty about it. I knew people had to buy rice to survive, so we had a tacit agreement to let those who dished the rice and ran get away. I always thought the same thing as I chased them. Please throw it away. I didn't want to catch him because I didn't want to hear him crying and pleading in distress. It was then that the old man showed up. He looked like my dead father. I was dumbfounded, and then all of a sudden he punched me in the head. If a father disciplines you as a child, you lower your head in apology. I was so happy to see my father alive, I couldn't hold my joy in. The old man said, "Let him go." When I heard his voice, I realized he wasn't my father, so I thought I'd arrest him for assaulting a policeman. But a young man like me, who'd barely grown any hairs yet, was no match for an older man used to fighting. He sure taught me a lesson. Gave me a good scolding in the middle of the street after I was all beat up. Who'd even listen to him, right? But something struck me then. I kept seeing my father, and all I could do was listen. Yeah, he was a ruffian, but he showed his guts like a real man, and that's what made him such a great guy. You don't see men like him nowadays. He's a true example of a good man. Man from the good old times. Despite my age, I still needed a father. I needed someone to... Who are we talking about? I needed someone to look up to show me what makes a man a man. And when I think about it, I really did have two fathers. The old man, a father, a brother, my best friend. But now he lies with his head, body, arms, and legs all dismembered, and his right arm hasn't been found. Oh, is this Uishi? Is this Uishi's perspective? He taught me how to be a man, how to enjoy alcohol, and how to play mahjong. And along with that right arm, he gave me a good beating when I did something wrong, but that right arm is still missing. You have any suspects? Of course. I swear I'll find the old man's right arm and pay them back for what they've done to him. They're running Hinamizawa from the shadows, inciting this collective crime they call the dam protests, the Sonozakis. You know what? I think you could indirectly charge them with this, but they probably... You know, you probably could charge anyone intentionally aggravating people who have Hinamizawa syndrome with manslaughter. Since you live in Hinamizawa and you are aware of the curse, you know that aggravating people can cause them to go berserk uncontrollably, and that they have no control over it, so pushing people intentionally like this could be Could be manslaughter if they knew a little bit more, but I think it'd be really hard to prove because the Sonozakis don't know all that. I don't think they know all that much. They only know a little bit. But if there was general awareness of the disease, you could probably do that. You're like, your city has this disease, so don't do anything stupid. Oh, well. Good job, Sonozakis. I declare war within myself. I already know who my enemy is. But yes, though it was not intentional, they did indirectly kill him, so... They created this scenario, but I don't know if it's vague enough. I don't know if it's specific enough to him that you could charge him for anything. I think a reasonable person wouldn't assume that you could make someone go berserk like this. Without awareness of the syndrome, so you'd probably be safe. As it couldn't be reasonably expected that it would cause anyone to die. Alright. Koizumi's death. Fever, medicine, shopping trip, Erie Institute contact. Nope. Footsteps? Nope. Ah, here we go. Suffering of a big brother. Got a lot of scenes to go through, man. We aren't even at the actual arc. We're at the construction of the setup for the arc. A group of boys played baseball under the powerful sun. Yes, the sun is powerful. The sound of cicadas makes the heat stand out even more, but to these boys it's another kind of cheering for from the crowds. Of course, they go through training exercises to build stamina, but they don't actually like such routine activities. What they look forward to is the free game after practice. School in Hanamizawa is borrowed from the forestry service, but this one's schoolyard's made of gravel, so it's not appropriate for playing sports. Compared to that, the grounds at this one are properly maintained for athletic activities, so they grow even more energetic when they come here. A real baseball diamond. Kids from Hanamizawa don't really care if the ground's made of gravel or not. The other instructor's watching the game, so I decided to get some drinks for the team. Tosh, where are you going? Oh, I thought I'd get drinks for everyone. Do you mind helping me out, Toshi? Oh no, not at all. Toshi decided to come along with me. Sometimes kids don't like what grown-ups choose, so I'm glad he agreed to help. We got in a car and headed to the grocery store nearby. Looks like we're getting some Gatorade, boys. Manager. How is Satoko doing? Well, she's doing fine. Although it's an extremely slow process, her emotional wounds are healing. I think we should let her rest for a bit. It's natural for Satoshi to be worried. Satoko's been in the hospital over 2 weeks. Of course, he doesn't know his sister has Hinamizawa syndrome, and not only that, she's almost at level 5. She could be deranged at any moment. He believes she's depressed because of the shock of their parents' accident. He came to the clinic every day to cheer her up, but she's become emotionally unstable and was showing some dangerous symptoms, so we called off the visit. In fact, she's not doing very well at all. Level 5, the stage she's at, is an abnormal one. The man from last year who was at the same stage was acting so abnormal, even a drug addict in his final stages would have turned and ran. There's no guarantee Satoko doesn't fall into that same condition. When we performed the autopsy on the man last year, we learned the true identity of the syndrome and gained a great deal of understanding of its mechanisms. We even discovered important facts that might lead to the development of a cure. We have yet to find a method of actually curing it, though. So if Satoko becomes unrecoverable, we might have to dissect her, just like we did the man from last year. How can I tell Satoshi about his sister's situation? All I can do is make vague comments and lie to him that she's recovering. What if she becomes worse? Well, that'd make me a liar. Tiny bit of conscience that remains in me hurts. It's okay. You might hack it to pieces anyway, so you gotta probably do that anyway. So, well, who cares about the lies? Who cares about the lies when you got murdering to do? Okay with your clinic? Could you stay there longer? What are you saying? I thought he wanted her to come home as soon as possible, so I'm surprised. Well, actually, Satoko doesn't get along with her aunt. I heard she didn't get along with her parents. She can't get along with her aunt and uncle either. Satoko doesn't open up to growth. Satoshi told me about their family background. Their mother's constant remarriages wounded her children deeply. Satoshi is able to overcome it, but Satoko was too young to be able to do that. It left her traumatized, and now she has the tendency to distrust or dislike guardians who aren't related to her. Actually, nobody would like a guardian who isn't related to them. It's not just Satoko. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Where are we now? We're Satoshi. Grab lunch. Okay, Satoshi and Eri are talking about Satoko. Usually people try to deal with it even if they don't like it. I guess Satoko's not capable of that. He isn't home much. Besides, even when he is, he's either sleeping, watching TV, or... Oh, so he's not really the problem. Our aunt really goes after her, though. Why doesn't she like her? I can guess why. Satoko's parents were damn proponents, and because of that, the villagers considered the aunt and uncle part of the family and ostracized them. Moreover, they passed away in an accident and left 2 children behind. I guess there would be more hate than gratitude. If she had been obedient like Satoshi, everything would have been fine, but Satoko isn't that way. She shows that in her attitude and expressions, leading to her and her aunt having big fights. Satoshi's getting that stress. Satoko's super stressed and about to go to level 5. Well, she's in level 5. I told my aunt about Satoko's situation, but she can't understand. I think you're a great big brother, Satoshi. You're the one and only relative Satoko has left. Right, I feel that way too. Satoshi said it with a slight hint of a sigh. He doesn't say it, but it seems Satoshi has grown tired of having to cover for her every time she and her aunt fight. He's a good person as well as a good big brother. But I'm sure that fucking wears on him, man. Damn. I'm sure he'll do anything to cover for her, but it's a very exhausting thing to do forever. He was already doing that when their parents were alive, and eventually his mental equilibrium couldn't handle the strain. He grew sick and he visited my clinic. I thought his circumstances might have improved after their initial cause. His parents were gone. It seems things are even worse than before. I understand. I can't release Satoko if things are like that. Her symptoms might return again. Don't worry about the fees. I'll make sure Satoko recovers. While trying to pretend I'm listening to his request, I feel disgusted at myself for making such selfish excuses. I'll make sure. Akano's working on her plan as we speak to dissect Satoko. That's possible. That'd help me too. What? I mean, if Satoko stays in the clinic, I can relax as well. That's all. What do you mean? As soon as Satoko comes back, she'll get into fights with my aunt. It's back to those days of fighting, screaming. I'll get dragged into it too. So if Satoko is hospitalized for a long time, it'd be easier on me. When I think like that, though, Toshi. Satoshi's a great big brother who always sticks up for his sister. But that doesn't mean he doesn't feel burdened. Think things like that. What a terrible brother. The more I think that way, the more I hate myself. Toshi said, sniffling once. His expression was one of anguish, as if truly feeling his own sin. His desire to be a model big brother puts itself under greater pressure. I feel bad for her, but I feel bad for him in a different way. As someone who knows both of them, I feel I must be their ally since they don't have anyone else who cares about them. That's a stressful spot to be in. A stressful spot to be in without the magical disease. And the threat of being murdered by your doctor. Don't forget that one. Let's see, 3rd-year curse. Death of the aunt. Help from the carrier queen. We're not there yet. Results. Stagnated research. I don't know if we have this one yet. Because high fever. Sabataki's slight fever, not a thing. Medicine, Koizumi. Shinto priest didn't do his thing yet. Emergency manual's not done. That's not done. Footsteps aren't done. Let's see. 4th-year curse, red capsule. We have the watermelon, but not the family move. Let's see. Mysterious death of the Ferride hasn't happened. Keiichi can't come in yet. Game board must be set up. We don't have the game board. That's not happening. I guess we do this one after we get all the other fragments done. So we're gonna go back to the start and find one that's appropriate. We haven't discontinued the plan. We haven't had the 30-year curse. We haven't had the ant die. I think we can do this one. Queen request, maybe? I don't recall the instructions for the kidnapping operation ever triggering, but it might have already triggered and I might have missed the line. So I'm gonna do that one. Here we go. So apparently we missed it. I think it was at the start. It was one of the first ones when we weren't looking for hints and lines because we hadn't memorized most of the clues. So I'm thinking we probably just missed it because it was early on. That night, the head of the Furude, the priest, gathered his wife and Rika for a family meeting. In Hanamizawa, it's traditional for the three families to discuss village issues. It's hardly unusual for big families, like the Sonozakis and the Kimiyoshis, to have meetings beforehand to sort out opinions among themselves. But the Furude, well, they lost their branch families. There's only 3 of them left. Till that day, they never had a family meeting at all. What is it? You're being so formal. Is it about the dam construction? The dam was the most important issue in the village. The wife naturally assumed the priest wanted to talk about the dam. For him to gather them all like that, it must be a huge decision. Perhaps he's going to talk about joining the pro-evacuation camp. No, it's not that. It's about something important which concerns the village and all the ancestors of the villagers too. The Furude family had served in the priesthood of Oyashiro-sama, the guardian deity of the village, for generations. For him, the head of the family, to start out that way, it must be something important. He said it wasn't about the dam. What could he want to talk about? I married into this family, so I want you and Rika, who carry the true blood of the Furude, to listen carefully. You aren't normal human beings. I'm the reincarnation of Oyashiro, right? Rika, you shouldn't say such things. Dear, let's talk about things like that without her. She's heard enough nonsense from the elderly people at the village hall already. What she said about her being the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama, it appears to be true. What? It's a long story. Listen. Sit tight and listen to me, alright? The wife had a dumbfounded expression on her face, not knowing what he was going to say, but Rika was completely relaxed, wearing her usual carefree expression. Okay, I'm curious how Rika's father is going to come to this conclusion. The priest started to talk to after his wife calmed down. There's a disease in this village that's been here for many years. It's a special disease that only exists here in this area. Everyone who lives here has the disease. Not only the people who live here now, but all the people who've ever lived here had the disease. What? But we're all perfectly healthy. I've never heard of a disease exclusive to the village. Calm down, calm down. As long as we're here, the village won't cause any problems. The disease won't cause problems. But once you move away, that's when it starts acting in. You understand? What do you expect me to understand something? I have no idea what you're talking about. It's the same as the curse of Oyashiro-sama. Rika said it so calmly while her mother became frustrated. Right. They say when you leave the village you're cursed. It's just like that. In other words, the curse of our Oyashiro-sama, which our ancestors feared for generations, is actually a disease that exists only here. How could that be possible? We left the village before. Other villagers too. They went on business trips. Some even traveled to foreign countries. True. But the disease has weakened over a long period of time. It was going to disappear eventually, but the business with the dam disrupted that process. Everyone knew during the dam war the entire village was aflame with agitation. Such excitement produced an emotional instability, making the disease stronger. I don't know what you're trying to say. What we thought was a curse was a disease? That's right. All the rules Oyashiro came up with were to protect the villagers from the disease. Oyashiro's actually a disease? Not a god? How could that be? How do I explain that to the Furude ancestors? Calm down, calm down. Faith in Oyashiro won't change. The fact that Oyashiro is watching over Hanamizawa will remain the same. It just means the disease producing the curse was in the village long ago, that's all. I won't accept that. How can I explain to our ancestors? It's a desecration of the Furude family's ancient tradition. Desecration of Oyashiro-sama. Who told you such a thing? This isn't acceptable. In the first place, can you prove a disease actually exists? I can. What kind of proof? Give it to you. The people from the Ministry of Health and National Institute of Infectious Disease Prevention. They've already found the pathogen and they're looking for a cure right now. I saw the documents and the samples last week. Well, that's surprising. The people at the Ministry of Health call it Hanamizawa syndrome. No, why? As long as you lead a normal life, the syndrome's harmless, but once you go far from Hanamizawa or become unstable, it's easy for the disease to manifest itself. And when it acts out, you can be possessed by your own delusions, and in worst case scenario, go mad. They discovered the disease during the war. A distinguished scholar noticed that only soldiers from Hinamizawa came down with an abnormal disease, and he'd been researching it all these years. He explained some details of this research, but I'm sorry, they're too complicated for me to understand. You don't believe what I'm saying? Why don't you go listen to it yourself? First I was indignant too, wondering how they'd dared to blaspheme Oyashiro. It's about nonsense. The Erie Clinic was built to study the syndrome. It appears to be a clinic on the outside, but it's actually a secret research center for studying the syndrome. Well, we are seeing Rika's parents in some way, shape, or form as ghosts while we stare at the ceiling. I assume this is the ceiling and not the floorboards of something. Like under the... like maybe we're under the house? Secret research? That's ridiculous. It's actually backed by the Ministry of Health. Why aren't they doing it in the open? Well, I guess they can't. For example, think about leprosy victims who are misunderstood and exiled. They're still misunderstood and still discriminated against even today, in fact. If the whole country finds out about this and thinks everyone in Hinamizawa who has contracted this weird disease can go mad at any moment, it'll be chaos. And yet their answer is to kill everyone. Well, that's interesting. The Ministry of Health has taken that into consideration and is working on developing a cure while keeping the disease a secret. Don't get me wrong, though, they aren't trying to put us on display. They're trying to eliminate the disease and free us from it. It was a different story long ago when we supported ourselves, but nowadays it's impossible not to leave the village. If a simple act of leaving can trigger the disease, you realize how dangerous it is for people, right? Like, I'm repeating myself, but in the recent dam protest, the whole village entered a strong, excited state. It's very bad for the syndrome. They'll just go crazy and do something horrible. Look all over the media. Right. If that happens, it'll be too late. But can I believe it? You sure we're dealing with people from the government? Are you sure you aren't being tricked? I don't blame you for not being able to believe it. They said we can come and take a look at the facility any time. Seen it before. I know that no mere fraud could have set up something like that. Even the big hospitals in Gogura don't have such large-scale equipment. If you can't believe what I said, well, go to the research center yourself and ask around. They can explain it better than I can. Well, that sounds very serious. They said if their explanation isn't good enough, they can explain to you at the NRI in Tokyo, or even the Ministry of Health's main office. Whether I believe it or not, how are we related to that? It's said the Furude family inherited the blood of Oyashiro, and it's also said if a girl is born for 8 generations, they'll be the reincarnation of Oyashiro. Me. That's right. I'm the 7th, and Rika is the 8th. But what does that have to do with the disease? Well, it's caused by a type of parasite, and although they're very tiny, can't even see them with the naked eye, they say there's a sort of leader among the parasites. Are you saying that's the Furude family? It appears the leader is passed down through generations by people with a direct bloodline to the Furude. In other words, in the previous generation it was you, and now it's Rika. Your reaction is just like meep. Meep to everything. That's the only response. Me? Me? Because that's ridiculous. Why would it be something as disgusting as parasites in the first place? Calm down, I'm not good at explaining. Have the experts explain it to you. According to them, studying the parasite is necessary to research the disease. No, I won't have anything to do with such suspicious research. Rika won't either. I'm telling you, calm down. They think the syndrome acts out when it's separated from the leader, not the village itself. When you were little, do you remember the villager was telling you you had psychic powers? You were able to cure elderly people who got migraines after taking a long trip. That's proof you're carrying the parasite leader. The Furude bloodline has the power to cure people with the disease. Man, I'd like to have my headaches go away by just talking to a lolly. That'd be funny. Go see the village lolly to get your headache cleansed. Thanks. It's extremely important we participate in their research. If they study me, will the villagers be saved? That's what they say. And all the villagers are infected? Me? Everyone else? Chitoko? Yes. Not only the people who live here, but their relatives in Okonomiya. We're talking thousands of people. That's why the Ministry of Health spent so much money to build a specialized research center. Epchick, how can you let Rika be a sacrifice for something that's suspicious? I don't mind. If Chitoko will be saved, I don't mind being a sacrifice. I really don't. Be quiet, Rika. I refuse. I'll go talk to them and refuse them directly. I won't kill Rika in some crazy experiment. Besides, Rika's the one who'll be heir of the Furude. What if something happens to her? The Furude will die right there. Do you see it? You need to think about our family. That's why the villagers call you an opportunist. After all, don't you think it's odd? The Ministry of Construction tries to submerge us, and the Ministry of Health is trying to cure disease. What's going on? They warned us the disease could be triggered by a change in the environment. They're actually trying to have the Ministry stop the construction plan. We really should go to the center. Why would they build a huge facility in a location that could be submerged? Huh. Rika let out a yawn. It was long past bedtime for someone like her. I'll go to bed now. Dad, please let him know. I'm willing to participate, okay? Rika, you can't make such a decision without consulting me. Rika, wait, Rika! Poor Rika's mom basically gets overruled because Rika has magic powers and is more important. And also lived forever, you know. Little things like that. Actually, I think Rika can't redo the damn conflict, or can she? Can she redo the damn conflict too? Okay, let's see. I don't know if we have help from the Queen Carrier here. She says yes, but I don't know if that means that's her moment. So I'm going to... This might be triggered. Let's see. Results. Rika already knows her parents will listen anyway. Yeah, fair enough. She might have already been through that. This one's probably done. Depression of a Shinto priest. We can probably do that one. Red capsule's not here. The Verudae aren't dead yet. This last one should be not a thing. Okay. I think we can do this one. Depression of a Shinto priest. Let's see. This will probably be our last one for the night. It's getting a little bit late. The gathering place inside of the shrine is in fact the headquarters of the Onigafuji Guardians, and normally a shrine should be calm and quiet, but there are anti-dam signs everywhere, making it obvious what this location has become. There are over 30 members of the Guardians here at the moment, and they are having a heated conversation about their plans for the future. Although this meeting place is on the Furude family property, it's a community facility, so it closes at 9. Of course, sometimes the discussion gets so heated it goes past closing time, but meetings are supposed to end by 9. If a discussion ends early, they usually talk until then. That's what usually happens. Of course, they mostly talk about the dam, even when they chit-chat. They talk about someone's mistreatment at the government office, or someone getting arrested unjustly, or complain people at the dam construction site are too damn violent. Since it's idle chatter, the topics are slightly emotional, and because of that, there's a good deal of bad-mouthing the Hojos. And then she threw the circulation notes away. Can you believe that? That woman's crazy. Just the other day, she got into a huge argument with Makino's grandmother at the trash pickup. You know, the husband's rude too. He's so irrational. Did you see him at the explanatory meeting? That was bad. I can't believe they're still here. I wish they'd just leave. He said something about money. He has absolutely no shame. No. If you talk about being irrational, his wife is the same or even worse. Must be hereditary. I see their daughter shopping quite often. I used to say hello to her, but she never replied. Can you believe that? I got tired of it. I won't even say anything to her anymore. Their son always looks so depressed, doesn't he? By now, the Hojo family's become the enemy of the village. Bad-mouthing the Hojos was the greatest shared topic anyone could easily contribute to. If he'd known how powerful the three families were, especially the Sonozakis, and if he'd known Oryu's character, he wouldn't have said the things he did. He should have just shot Oryu, because she's a terrible person. Actually, that would have probably made life easier in the village, but we've already been there. Killing Oryu might actually solve half the village's problems, as she causes a lot of them. The Hojo couple are residents here. Though they were never very enthusiastic about the council activities, they should have known what kind of person Oryu is. Yes, a complete bitch. He could have imagined just what would happen to him if he talked to her that way. Yet he let his anger take over and voiced his unpleasant feelings. Most people think the Hojo family brought their isolation upon themselves. They wanted to negotiate with the government regarding the move. They should have done so privately. Poor Oryu. I don't feel sorry for Oryu. She's like a ridiculously powerful tyrant. Who hates anyone doing anything she's opposed to. Terrible person. Terrible person with like zero sympathy for anybody. Is why she's so powerful. Because, you know, she's a member of the Yakuza. It is what it is. Terrible person, Yakuza leader. Pretty bog standard setup. Yet he was foolish enough to express himself at a public gathering. Imagine going to a public gathering regarding a dam project and expressing approval. How dare you express approval for a government project? Disgusting. Not too many sympathize with the Hojo family. Ever since the first big fight at the meeting, the Sonozakis looked at the Hojos as their enemy and started going after them. It caused the other pro-dam families to go quiet, fearing they'd be made into scapegoats too, and those who wanted to leave were bitterly forced to give up. Because remember, Hanyuu is a member of the Yakuza, and can literally just station guards outside your house to make sure you don't leave. Or just have you murdered at any point. But apparently she hasn't done any of the murdering bits, just the intimidation. Just the intimidation and protection money. That's the only racket she runs right now. Or claims to. The bodies in the well tell me there's at least a few people she's killed. Even those people started criticizing the Hojos, saying they could have gotten their compensation to leave if the two hadn't picked that reckless fight. Both the anti-dam and the pro-dam people hate the Hojos, and the family has become even more isolated. Moreover, the Hojos are both very aggressive. They should have stayed quiet at least until things settled down, but they didn't. Everyone should worship Hanyuu. That alienated the handful of people who took pity on them as well, so now nobody even says anything to them. All of that was immediately obvious by listening to the foul talk here and there. Rika always helps out by putting the teacups away, so I'm sure she hears what they say as well. One of the Hojo family members they're bad-mouthing is Rika's friend, Satoko. It hurts to think about what Rika feels while hearing that. As priest of the shrine, should I let this continue? Oyashiro's a god who makes peace between enemies when the humans and demons fight. Oyashiro descended from heaven and mediated between sides. As caretaker of the shrine, I must do something before it goes too far. I'm sitting next to Hanyuu, who's spitefully disparaging the Hojos. That ass was talking shit to me. Who the hell cares? He'll be cursed by Oyashiro, that's for sure. The elderly people cheer her on as they listen to her speak. And if I barge in now, well, I have a feeling it won't be a peaceful conversation. But I need to make up my mind. As priest of the shrine, and for the sake of Rika's friend, Satoko, Hanyuu, don't you think you've said enough by now? Huh? What the hell are you trying to tell me? Well, I'm sure Hojo didn't really mean what he said. Isn't it a bit much for this kind of treatment to go on for so long? Shut up! You heard what he said, didn't you? Weren't you pissed? He pissed me off. Hanyuu's head of the family. The heir to the demons. She never forgives anyone who stands against her, so there's no way she'd even listen to what I'm trying to say. Hanyuu and the others became furious and refused to listen to me. I also mentioned the dam construction plan will be cancelled soon, so they should calm down already. I said that because the staff at the clinic told me the government is putting pressure on the Ministry of Construction. But thinking that I'm being an opportunist, soon criticism of me began to circulate the room. After that I realized I've been branded a fence-sitter. If the demons are willing to listen, there's a chance to make peace. But how do I make peace with people who refuse to listen? I destroyed their mood, so I guess I'll just give up and shut my mouth. And then I felt a hand on my back. Rika, it's getting late. Why don't you go home? No matter how hard we try, we can't reach them. Rika looked into the distance while she spoke. Evil of this corrupted village is probably beyond the means of those of us living in that muck. But I won't lose hope. Surely someone who'll destroy this stagnation will arrive. Soon, I know it. Her eyes shone as if seeing a future only the maiden of the Furide Shrine could see. One day, we'll have a hero. A hero who can, burn back the tide of Hanyuu's madness. Alright, well, we have a bit more rearranging to go, but I think I need to save things. This is quite the chapter, a long one. And it's getting quite late, guys. We're gonna have to wrap things up here.